Before we kick off the show, Into the Breach is excited to be teaming up with 9 Line Apparel, a veteran-owned apparel company that celebrates the spirit of freedom, courage, and American values. Go check out 9lineapparel.com for freedom-loving, patriotic gear perfect for your family members, first responders, veterans, and active duty service members. When you're done selecting the amazing merchandise and apparel 9 Line has to offer, punch in the code ITB20. That's India Tango Bravo 20 for a 20% discount off your next purchase at 9lineapparel.com. VetTV is a streaming service created by veterans for veterans, with over 30 different series ranging from the absurd to on-the-ground war reporting on the front lines of Ukraine. Into the Breach listeners have an exclusive discount of paying $1 a month for the first 2 months of subscription with the code BREACH. So head on over to VetTV and type in BREACH at checkout to receive this incredible offer for your VetTV subscription. Thank you for listening, and now back to the show.
We're rolling.
Cool. Man.
We got on a very special guest today.
Oh.
Filmmaker. Jeez, I just said it. It sounds how much I can't be an actor because I can't remember anything. There we go.
You literally just said those words 4 seconds ago.
And then I froze up. And it's my show. Yeah. We got a local radio legend from KS95. It'll be an amazing actor, Hollywood actor, and famous comedian. Rudy Pavich.
Man, you know what's so funny is if you were to tell that to my family, like we have a radio guy and a Hollywood actor and a comedian, they'd be like, "Who's that? Who are you talking about?" I'm not. They'd be like, "No, you're related to him." They'd go, "No, no one in our family does that. We got a guy who moved all the way to Las Vegas so that he could spend all of his money out there, quote unquote, trying to make it in this business, but we don't have anybody in our family that does that." Dude, thanks for having me. Great setup, man.
Well, thank you.
I love the setup. Yeah,
I was excited. I saw you coming in. I'm like, dude, I gotta get Rudy on. You know,
thanks, man. Thanks, yeah, buddy. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know. It's 12:30, so you know, I'm glad that we're drinking. We're at an age now where it's like,
coffee.
I do wait till 5 now. I'm nice enough. Yeah. I was looking at your poster up there. Make love loudly, make war silently.
Yes.
I don't know if I told you this it's been a while since I've seen you. I was in Utah. I was doing some shows, and the guys from Dry Bar Comedy are based out of Provo, Utah.
Okay. Yeah.
And they had asked us, "Do you guys want to go shoot some guns?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, let's go." So they take us out to the middle of nowhere in Utah and kind of up on this mountain range, and they start pulling out all sorts of crazy, insane. They were putting out, like, I don't know what you want to call them. They're like canisters. But you
tannerite?
You shoot. Yeah, tannerite.
And
they explode. Yeah. Never seen. They were putting those out for us. It was great. But then one of the guys, I think he pulled out. I'm going to screw this up. I know you probably have a lot of listeners that know so much about firearms. I'm such an idiot with this stuff. But I think he pulled out an AR.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You want to shoot one?" And we're like, "Yeah, obviously, let's shoot one." And then we fired off a couple of shots with it, and it wasn't as. Because you hear like all these guys have ARs, AKs, and I'm used to shooting 30-06s. I'm used to, bigger, high power rifles, deer hunting. So I know what a kick of a 10 gauge feels like. This felt like butter in my hands. It almost felt like you were holding on to a toy gun. And then one of the guys goes, "Hey man, you want to try that thing with a silencer?" And I'm like, "Get out. They make those?" And he said something like, "There's 3 people in the country that are allowed to have these." And he's like, "And I'm one of them. I'm an arms dealer for the government." This dude pulled out a silencer. He strapped that thing onto the front of that AR. And it was like shooting a pellet gun. But you're literally shooting off high-powered rounds into the side of this mountain. Yeah. And it was one of the most exhilarating feelings I've ever had. I also had a thought that I took some heat for online because I made a comment about for how fun it was and for like how exhilarating it was to shoot something that high power and to have it. I mean, it was like, it was, you could barely hear it. I was like, that feels like a little too much power for any civilian to have. And then people lit me up, man. They were like, "That's the Second Amendment." I was like, I didn't say take them away. I just said it feels like a lot of power for one dude who's, some straggler guy who lives in the woods by himself to have, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. I'm just saying it feels like it's a little too much for some people.
I remember, I think I saw that post or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, okay," but we're 3 minutes in, and I guess you lost my whole audience. 9 Line Apparel, VetTV, and all the Vet. No, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, what's fun is like if you're an outsider looking in, so the AR. And everyone's probably losing their minds in the comments, or not.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff, so please correct me on anything I say that's not right.
So the AR platform is actually a brand. So when they say AR-15, it's actually Armalite 15.
Okay.
So you would say like that what you shot was most likely, you call them like M4 variants. That's because that's what they are in the military, is the M4. But they're called like, you were probably holding some awesome, like there's all these brands. So you could be like, oh, I was shooting a M4, but it's a Daniel Defense Mark 18 with a free floating barrel and a match grade trigger.
Okay.
If you were with those guys, there's such a difference from like what I have upstairs, which is an $800 M4. I love weapons. I think they're great, but I just don't really collect them. You know, I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I like cameras. I don't spend my money on that. I have one, former, obviously vet. I always like, I want like something for my house. Like I want an M4. I got like 20 mags, all that stuff, but
You're
I don't
like a
have
pro golfer who only swings top flight.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I just like, once I'm like, man, I would like to buy something, but like some cool whatever. And maybe I will eventually, but like, anyways, so you can have like different brands and the suppressors. Like I can go get a suppressor here in Minnesota. Like it just takes the paperwork, just takes a while.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And anyway, so yeah. And what they probably had though are those weapons that like, it's just like any other hobby. I think some people look at it, they're like, oh, gun nuts. But it's like, yeah, but you have camera nuts. You have guys like me that spend $9,000 on cameras and those, and how much on cars, right? If you start looking at like weapons the same way, you're kind of like, oh, I get it. Like, of course you would spend $1,000 on a suppressor. Of course you would spend $500 to make the trigger smoother. Of course you would spend an extra $1,500 on the upper so it doesn't burn out and it's more accurate. Of course you would spend $1 a round depending on the ammunition because it's match grade, because you want to be more accurate. And then the optic itself is going to cost $500 to $3,000. So you can rig an M4 variant weapon to $9,000-$10,000,
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get a good one though, and like you're saying, like you shoot like 30-06s, old Mausers, old shotguns, but you get those in your hands. And even me in the Marine Corps, we had crap M4, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But when I've messed with some like match grade stuff that like former Delta dudes have, or even not even Delta, but just like, that's always fun to throw out there. But like, guys that are just in match grade competitions. So when you like tap the trigger, it goes off because it's all about time and accuracy.
Sure.
So you probably had one and it's suppressed. So you're just like, da, 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 da.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a video game. You're just like, da, 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 da.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's like, and your control, it doesn't freak you out. It's not loud. And now you're like, well, maybe I can run a range and maybe I can go through the house and, your mind just is like, oh, I'm in control.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
After me, I was just like, okay, sign me up. Yeah, what? Yeah, okay. How old do you? What's the age limit? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, just sign me up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it really did, because I remember when they gave it to me and I put it up to my shoulder, I leaned into it like I did the first time I ever shot. I shot an old Russian 10 gauge, probably I don't know, maybe last time was about 6-8 months ago. And that thing kicks like a donkey. I mean, it blows your shoulder off. So in my head, I'm like, oh, this is a much more high power. I bet I'm leaning into this thing. And it was like, doop. And you're like, oh, this is like shooting the pellet gun at the circus. Like this doesn't feel, it really was.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see those things in action up close, and the opportunity to shoot them. I was like, yeah, of course we got to go do it. And then, then they were like, all right, they have all these high tech weapons and all this amazing stuff. And then they're like, hey, somebody go put a ginger ale can out there and see if you can hit it. And it was just like, you watch, like, we're all, dummy comedians and stuff. You can just see, we're 6 feet away from it. And I was like, I don't know how you guys do it, man, to be able to be that accurate with a handgun, But it was fun.
Handguns are much more, like, that's a higher level skill, too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like a decent shot with the pistol, but like, again, match grade now, like people spend $1,500, $2,000 on a pistol. And then those are like buttery smooth too, and they're like breathing, and and I have buddies that get into it. I've been in that community for, obviously, since I was in the Marine Corps, but like I was with contractors too, so we had way too much money with nothing to do. So way too much money on our hands and nothing to do. So guys were like buying wild stuff, when we were over in Afghanistan and just sitting around and looking at the computer.
Yep.
But yeah, that community is pretty cool. Like it is fun. Like I do, again, hobbies are coming when I'm getting older, but I have young kids. So a lot of my friends are older, but their kids are like 12, 14, 15. So their kids are like, I don't want to hang out with you. So they're like, oh, I guess I'll get a hobby. Yeah. And so part of me is kind of like, when my kids get old enough, I was like, maybe I'll start doing 3-gun matches. Some of my buddies do that.
What's that 3-gun match?
So that's like you use a shotgun, pistol, and that M4. and you run through a whole lane for points and time. So like you'll start with your M4, you shoot targets. It's kind of like what John Wick does, you know, or like the Keanu Reeves, if you ever see him do like that stuff. But you're running through a course, then you put your M4 in a barrel, you take out your pistol, you start running through with the pistol, you put that in, then you get a shotgun, and it's like how fast can you load the shotgun? So guys have like techniques where they like, it's wild. My buddy was a competitive shooter in shotgun, and he like how you hold the shell and like rack it in.
Yeah.
It's all like millisecond points. And
yeah.
It's like it's all down to the milliseconds how you win.
Yeah.
So if you're really good at like, and those shotguns like super match grade shotguns, it's wild.
Yeah.
The whole community.
I saw somebody debunk Schwarzenegger's motorcycle Terminator 2.
Yeah.
With the thing where he was flipping the shotgun and then doing, they were like, that's not, but I remember like riding my bike after watching that thing, and I was like, I had a stick in my hand and I was like spinning the stick. I was like, I got you. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you know, the lady's like, I'm walking back from the grocery store. And I'm like, I got you. And she's like, leave me alone. But
do you remember the daisy, the lever action daisy?
Oh,
Pelican? I mean,
Pelican,
we tried to do that with that, like, it would hurt your hand. Like the metal would actually like bend your finger.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts. Yeah. We'd always be running around like doing that with the BB guns and everything. But it's a fun hobby to get into. It's expensive hobby to get into if you really, you know, like, again, if you think of it as like a car or mechanics, and then the way they operate, people kind of like go autistic and be like, oh, it's about the mechanics and how it works and like how fast you can pull the trigger. Yeah, it's just like electronics or 3D printing. When you kind of view it in that lens, then people start going like, oh yeah, you are right. And then they're like, yeah, Second Amendment. And then that's like followed up, But in generalities, though, when you start getting into that, because I was into it as a sniper, like you kind of get into your job, then you understand why you're so accurate, the techniques that you use to when you get behind the gun, how much of it is the gun and how much is it you. You know, it's still only as good as the shooter that's behind it. Yeah,
it's sort of like bringing up golf again. Firearms in golf, it feels like you got the guys that are absolute, enthusiasts who go out every single night or every weekend and that's all they do. And then you have guys who do it once every 6 years and that's totally okay for them. I don't feel like there's a lot of guys that sort of sit in the middle. There's not a lot of dudes who are like, they don't have as much knowledge about it because, you're firing off all these words and I'm like, oh, these are guys who know the world are probably listening to this right now going, oh, I know exactly what he's talking
They're probably
about.
like happy that I said something.
Where I'm just like, I have no idea what is, I don't know. I go out, I shoot, I zero in my 243 once a year. I go sit in the woods. I don't shoot a deer. I get, I get a couple of Bud Lights in me and then I call it a year and I put my gun away. So it's nice to have people who actually know what they're talking about. Plus, I don't know about you, but I really love listening to people regardless of what the topic is, who really know about that stuff. That's the thing about being on the road with certain people who are car guys. Because when they get around other car guys, I can just sit and just watch those dudes. Like I was on the road with Adam Corolla and we ran into Tim Allen.
What?
Of all craziest story. So we're just like, we're in Oklahoma City. And I walk into a cafe and I'm like, that is Tim Allen. And I walk over to the table. I'm like, did anybody notice that Tim Allen is here? And they're like, what? So Adam Corolla and Tim Allen just sit at this table and they talk cars for 45 minutes. And the whole table, I could see that there were a few people at the table that were like checking their phones or like, whatever, getting fidgety, looking out the window. And I am just like engaged in, I'm like, why is nobody else listening to this? You have two of the greatest minds who know so much about, there's so much car knowledge here at this table right now. Why are you not listening to what these guys have to say? Tim Allen told this great story about how he went to Jay Leno's shop and he had shown up in some, I can't remember, it was like an older vehicle. Obviously, I'm just based on the name of it, but like an older kind of vintage car. If you hear the name, you go, oh, I know, I've heard of those cars, Studebaker or something, so the name that sticks out. And he goes, Jay had said, I just got this. It was right kind of at the time when all electric cars were sort of, coming into the fold. And he told Tim, he's like, I got this all electric car. And Tim's like, these are garbage. Like, why would you buy one of these? Why would you, And Jay says, you want to race it? I'll race you in your car. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll race your crappy electric car. Dude, Jay Leno's electric car blows Tim Allen's doors off. And he was like, it's all torque. And after that, Tim just became like infatuated with all electric cars. He needed to know everything about them. So when you hear stories about guys who are still like in their 50s and upper 50s, low 60s, and they're so curious about, they're so curious and they want to know about the world. You know, I see guys who learn to play the piano when they're 60. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing it. Your mind needs you to do it, you know?
100%. No, I agree 100%. I'm not a huge car guy myself either, but I appreciate the car world when they start going down those. And I'll get a little into it, like, oh, I wonder if I can do that, you know. But it's more like when they're talking engines, like my dad was great because I'm sure we all kind of grew up in the same generation where like we were all poor. So it was like my dad had to fix the oil. You know, it's more of like the frugal generation of like, you know, hey, I got to change the oil because we're going to save $50 every time. We got to maintain the vehicle so it keeps running. He can replace brakes. He can do, it's more out of necessity than it is for, like, he knows cars well, but it's not because he loves cars that much he wants to change the brakes. It's like out of necessity for survival, you know, or just, you know, we don't have to spend $300 at the shop.
Yeah. Well, look at our shoes.
Yeah.
Our shoes nowadays. When they break, what do? You don't go to you don't have the cobble guy. He doesn't make you, you know, the shoe cobbler doesn't make you new shoes. You go to Ross Dress for Less. You pick up a pair for $25. You use those for the summer. You blow them out, and then you go buy a decent pair in the fall. Like that's what we don't have any of that sort of worldly. Let's just get some thread and a needle and sew this thing together. We just like, just go. They order it on Amazon. You know, like it's free shipping. Have it sent here. Yeah.
And people get into that though too when you start buying stuff that is handmade or more, I guess you would say higher quality. It's like I've gotten into that where I'm like, man, I go through this company called GoRuck and they make $180 like mid-tier boots, right?
Yeah.
And after I went into Ukraine, I went in. I had been gifted a GoRuck backpack, which these things are like $200 to $400, and they're super high quality though. Like you can put like 100 pounds in them. The straps won't break. It's great. Very thick nylon or whatever they use, and kind of military, kind of civilian. And so I was gifted one back in 2020. Ukraine kicks off 2022, and I'm like, well, I need a backpack to go into Ukraine. And I posted on my socials like, hey, GoRuck finally using it. Thanks, Jason McCarthy, for like gifting this to me 2 years prior. Literally not even like a few minutes later, I get a DM from, it must have been Jason or somebody, because it was from the GoRuck account. He's like, what's your shoe size? What's your home address? And I'm like, you know, like, and they sent me like these boots. Now I didn't get them till I got back from Ukraine, but they were these $180 pair of boots and then this $450 backpack. And now that, you know, and so I went straight to Ireland right after. That was actually between when I did your podcast, and I threw the boots on, dude. It like walking on air, and they last forever. Yeah. And they are the best boots I've ever had in my life. And I've spent thousands of dollars on boots when I was in the military. And it's just, and I had my wife buy another pair, and I'm like, I love these things. And I try to wear them as much as I can, you know, and then it's just like, but you spend, it's almost like instead of like fixing, you buy higher quality to kind of like, hey, I am, maybe I'm just getting older too, where it's like, you know, my running shoes I spend $140 on, and my GoRuck boots I'll spend $180, but then I don't wear anything else. You know, my wife's got like 10 pairs of shoes. I have 2, you know.
That's
like,
it. Yeah.
That's it. My running shoes and my GoRucks, or maybe some Merrells or whatever that's different. But that's it. Yeah. And
also you've earned the right to have nice stuff.
Yeah. Especially you get a little older, you have like a little more money. You're like, hey, you know, like my watch, you know, I'm like not a watch guy, but this is a $900, the Phoenix, you know, it goes smart watch. I'm trying to be healthy. I run, I do this, I do that. And I'm like, you know what? Like, let's, you know, I was buying like a $200 one. I was like, well, just F it. You know, my wife's like, get it. You deserve it. You know, you're running every day or you're whatever. And I'm like, okay. You know, it checks my calories, my steps, and then heart rate, how I sleep at night. It's like, I'm sure you're getting older, you know, it's like, how am I sleeping at night? Like maybe I should track this.
Yeah, I was going to show off my $400 watch. So you mentioned yours was $800. But it's totally fine.
Hey, man,
no, it's this $900 watch, everybody. You're doing okay. Got my nice little family on the suburbs now, doing just fine. Me and all my guns and my cameras and my $900 watch. No, but I do understand what you mean, because I had a Garmin Instinct.
Oh, okay, those are great. Yeah, and I was looking at getting one of those. I
had the original, the Instinct. I think I had a 1, and then I got the 2. Had the 2 for a long time, and then the little extra band right there broke.
Yeah, mine just broke.
So which I, instead of just buying a new piece, like fixing it, I went out and bought an Apple Watch. What a piece of junk. They're the worst. They suck. Constantly having to charge it every night. What a pain.
What's the point of a watch?
I agree.
It's so wild. Like I don't know, because I even when I was growing up in high school, my watch stayed on me. It stayed on me. And then I remember people were like, you wear your watch into the shower and at night? I was like, do you not? Like, what's the point of a watch? Like, if I have to take it off.
Absolutely. I agree.
And then I was in the Marine Corps, and obviously we live and die by our watches, and it was Casios, but, so I always had one on me. And then I was like, maybe I should get an Apple Watch. That'd be pretty cool. This was back in like 2019. And it was like, you got to charge it every day. I'm like, well, that defeats the whole purpose of my watch.
Yeah.
They're like, track your sleep. Well, when the hell do I charge my watch? It was when I would sleep. So why would it was the whole thing was just like, and then so I went down that rabbit hole. And Garmin had been doing it for a few years, and that's why I was like, oh, and then it's been and I'm like, yeah, we already got Garmin's because this one probably does. So the smart one goes for probably 3 weeks. Yeah. And then I charge it.
Yeah, mine's the same. Yeah, because this also has solar power on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it'll probably, if I charge it all the way up, you get about 17 to 18 days. Yeah. But it will be about 5 days before it actually goes down to like 17, 16, 15. Exactly. It takes a while, Yep. So yeah, I absolutely love it, man. And talk about what a great business pivot.
Yeah.
Garmin was like, somebody went, oh, by the way, you're getting phased out by everybody's phones. And they were like, what do we do now? No, nobody's buying our stupid little Garmin GPS system. What do we do? They went into watches. Best decision they ever made, man.
Amazing.
Oh, and speaking of watches, if I could give a plug to a company that sent me my first like big boy watch. Now, outside of like a digital watch, because this thing, I don't know about you, man, but like, I feel like James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
When I do that.
Same. Yeah.
I turn the head, I'm like, look at that. Yeah. Dude, it's the best. It's amazing.
I used it the other night. I was like,
this morning, like, because I've learned, it took me a long time to figure it out, but I learned that when you wake up in the middle of the night, especially when you're a bit of a boozer, because I am, you tend to have to get up in the middle of the night and pee. Yeah. The worst part about it is turning the light on. Because then you're like, man. Yeah. And somebody once said to me, now I'm sure, okay, this will be the second spot where we lose your listeners. Somebody said to me, you mean to tell me you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you go to the bathroom and you don't sit to pee? And I was like, no, I stand like a man. And they're like, no, dumb. Like, don't, listen, if it's 3 in the afternoon, don't sit to pee. But if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you don't want to turn the light on, fidget around until you find it and then sit on the toilet. That way you don't get pee everywhere. And I'm like, okay, that's brilliant. That's actually pretty brilliant. So I have like a cutoff. Like anytime past 6 a.m. and it's, dude, you got to stand to pee. But if it's before that, feel free to sit. Yeah. But the thing about it is when you're on your way, like especially in Vegas, because I live across the street from the Sphere, I have to get the darkest curtains because it's so, like the first night I got to my apartment, I was hauling stuff in. And it was, I've been there now for a year. So it was like November 15th when I moved everything in. And my girlfriend and I were in the apartment. It was like 8:30. And I was looking around the apartment and all the shades were shut. And I go, wow, it's crazy that the sun stays out this late here in Vegas. And she's like, what are you talking about? Sunset like 3 hours ago. And I'm like, no. And then I look outside, I'm like, oh, the Sphere is so bright that it just illuminates my entire apartment. So I had to get the darkest curtains I possibly could. So to wake up in the middle of the night, just hit the little flashlight on the watch. It was great. But then, speaking about buying nice things, I went out, I got a Sleep Number bed. Ooh, finally upgraded. Because I was like, I was on the fence about what should I buy because there's so many options now, and Sleep Number was kind of the original, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to get a Sleep Number because it seems like that technology has gone away, but I tried a bunch of different beds and went, all right, Sleep Number's the way to go. But I bought the option that it detects when you get out of bed. There's a light that goes on underneath the bed, so it like illuminates the floor, and you can see inside the room, and it's almost like this, where it's like dimly lit, and you're like, genius, man, that is brilliant. So like, I got the watch because I got tired of peeing all over the floor when I was half in the bag at 2 a.m. And then I finally outdid myself with the Sleep Number. So I don't know what the next thing is going to be. I don't know. I guess you just get flashlight put in your eyeballs, and then you just, they automatically turn on. But
that's
I don't know.
Awesome. But I got to look into that.
Dude, it's great.
That's legit.
It's great, man. Like I never thought I would be a Sleep Number guy, but man, I don't know if I could give it up now. I love it.
My parents have had it for years because they're different sleepers, and me and Amanda have been fortunate. We have good beds, and we're like, okay, we're both like good to go on that. I imagine in 10 years we might start being like, we need a Sleep Number.
Sure.
But we've been pretty good with our beds, where we haven't had like an issue with that. But I've heard people swear by the Sleep Numbers. Like, my parents have had them for probably 20 years. Like it's been a long time.
Yeah, and my girlfriend and I, we're both the same sleep number. We're both 100.
Yeah.
We like it as hard as you possibly can.
Really? Okay.
So when she comes out to Vegas, there's no adjusting it. When she leaves, I never have to set it back to my number. It's just constantly 100 all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that thing, man.
Yeah.
And it's got the deal where you can it's called like zero gravity or zero G they call it, where it's like it brings up the head and then it also does the feet, so you can you're sort of like it's almost like you're floating.
Yeah.
And you're just kicking it, watching TV. You set the timer.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, South Park's a half hour. I'm going to be asleep in 10 minutes. So you set the timer for 30 minutes. It automatically turns off the TV and it brings the bed back down to flat. You never have to press a button.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You wake up and you're super I'm telling you, dude. And this isn't. I'm not getting paid. I'm just telling you. And I hated when I first bought that bed. I was like, I wanted to return it.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't figure it out. And now that I gotten used to it, dude, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
Love that thing.
Yeah, that's the thing for us. I mean, we're in bed by 8:30 every day.
Yeah.
We're but it is one of those things where man, sleep, especially getting older, the kids,
They sleep through the night?
Technically, yes, but my daughter needs me to sleep with her now.
Yeah.
So we're trying to break her of that. And she was great till about 8 months ago. And I was we had a few parents that were like, yeah, I'm in her bed, she doesn't want to sleep without me. I was like, Finley doesn't need that, blah, 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 blah. Literally a month later, she had these nightmares. And we're like, oh, you're fine. And then I went in there to go sleep, just hey, it's okay, And then just like that, it clicked where she couldn't sleep without me in there or my wife. And we've been doing that for 8 months. And I was like, so sometimes she sleeps through the night, but when she wakes up and if I'm not there, she'll come and get me. And then it's we got to break the habit. But I mean, I get decent sleep, even in her bed, but it is one of those things. So it's oh man, we gotta nip this in the butt.
Yeah.
And it's more just it's more of a comfort thing to her because she doesn't have nightmares. She doesn't have any of that now, and she's becoming old enough for okay, you need to sleep on your own. Let's cut this off. About 6, 8 months ago, I get it. You're younger, 3.5, but now you're 4, going on 4.5 here soon. Let's cut this out.
Yeah, the way we did it, I didn't even know this until somebody had pointed it out to me. But after my daughter was about that age, because she was the same way, slept by herself, got to about 3.5, almost 4. Daddy, I need you to sleep in the room with me. And then after about 6 months, she was like, okay, Daddy, I don't want you in the bed, but you got to sleep on the floor.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I'll sleep on the floor. Yeah. And then just stayed in the room. She fell asleep. I would get up. I would leave. She'd sleep through the night. And then I was talking to somebody who, actually has a degree in child psychology. And they're like, oh, no, that's actually how you do it. So you just tell the child hey, I'll be in the room. I'm going to be right here. But Daddy's just going to sleep on the floor tonight. We're just going to sleep there. And then progressively, she'll get to a point where you're like, it's okay, Daddy. You do. Because you have to let them make the decision. Once they make the decision that you can leave, then it's totally okay.
Yeah.
But if you just tell them, Daddy's sleeping in his own bed tonight, they're like, no. It's it's almost like anything else. You have to let children be able to make the decision. So when she tells you it's time to go, then it's time to go. But you just have to trick her into telling you that it's time to go.
Exactly.
And that's the hard part.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. We're doing so much stuff. It's oh man, I don't have the time. And it's and so I think at night, definitely with okay, I'll be like, okay, hey, I'm gonna start with here, but I'm gonna eventually go. And she's like, no, and then she falls asleep. And then I'm not there. And then she'll sleep through the night sometimes, but most of the night she comes to get me. So there is a point where I can be like, hey, you're going to sleep on your own. Dude, we accidentally shut her door one night. Oh my God. I thought she was dying. She's like, blood curdling screams because she couldn't get that. We had that little safety handle. Sure, couldn't figure it out. It's dark in her room. She's losing her mind, know. There was one night that was really funny. My brother-in-law and his wife were here. And we were exhausted. This was maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Or something like that. And I was I woke up in the morning. I was like, oh man. It's everybody slept through the night. This is great. And so Jake came downstairs. I was like, oh man, how'd you guys sleep last night? And he's like, oh, good. I was like, yeah, Finley, he goes, yeah, it was all good to go. And I was like, yeah, Finley slept through the night. He's like, yeah, I only heard her once. I was like, oh, you heard her? He goes, yeah, she was screaming for about 12 minutes. And I was like, oh my God. And we were so exhausted. I didn't even hear it. I was completely out. She goes, yeah, she was screaming for you for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
and he's like, I was like, yeah, sorry about that. He's like, yeah, she eventually went to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's hard love. That's what you got to do. It's just hard love. Yep.
And I was surprised she didn't get out of her bed to come get me, but I was so gone.
Let them kids cry it out. They figure it out eventually.
They'll figure it out. So we're hoping to do that. I don't know if it's more for girls or boys because my son's becoming about 1.5, but he's still in the crib. We haven't even crossed that bridge yet of getting a bed for him in his room and whatnot. So, no, I agree. It's tough, and it's like, I don't know, but yeah, when it comes to like kind of circling back before with the big boy stuff, getting your big boy toys, or you get older and there's just things that you do, which is nice when you kind of get older. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like I'm gonna, like right before you came, I've been trying to get a 85-inch down here for the basement, and Amanda's just like, just Black Friday, and every year I miss it. We have like some other thing that we purchased or whatever, and so this time I was just like, I'm doing it. So right before you showed up, I was like, all right, hopped on Costco, just bought like an 85-inch TV.
Isn't that the best?
It's the best. Yeah, it's great. I love it. Like,
I don't worry about any of that stuff anymore. Like I was just in Hawaii with my daughter, and for us to take a trip to Hawaii, especially with my schedule and for like how busy I am.
Yeah.
I know that this will be, and she's at an age now where she's 17, almost 18. This was probably the last time her and I, as like her being a child, will travel together.
Is this her senior year?
Senior year of high school.
Okay,
Yep.
Yep.
And when she was young, we took trips, like we road trip through California. We took an awesome vacation to Florida. We went to Sanibel Island. We swam with the dolphins. We did all that stuff. But that was when she was about 8 or 9, and now it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
And my career I'm at a point now where it's like I'm constantly gone. I'm constantly busy. I'm constantly on the road. It's a great problem to have, but I don't see her as much as I would like. Yeah. So while we were there, I was like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I want to go snorkeling. I was like, great, book it. Whatever you want, just book it. I don't care, whatever it costs. Because I know I will never think of that $160 it costs for us to go snorkeling. I will always remember that mediocre time we had snorkeling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. But we went parasailing. That was the best, man. That was so much fun. I made a joke about it on stage that night. Because let me give you a piece of advice. If you ever go anywhere, use a business card and then come back to the podcast and then talk about it on the podcast and then tell the government, no, I took that trip as a business trip so I could talk about the experience on the podcast. You get to write everything off.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No, don't you worry. I know all about that. Who's taking photos on my $12,000 Scotland trip?
So my daughter came out there with me for work, which, I had 3 shows with Michael Yo at the Blue Note in Honolulu. So I was like, whatever you want to do, we'll write it all off. Yeah. So we went parasailing, and then that night I had to get up on stage and I was like, we went parasailing today. I don't have a joke. I just need to talk about it so I can write it off on my taxes.
Record.
It's on record that I did this,
Yep.
But we were talking. It was funny. I made a comment about it where, my daughter is a true story where my daughter had said to me once, because she goes to Holy Angels Academy here in Minneapolis. Good school.
Great school.
Great. Yeah. And a lot of affluent people. We are not that affluent. We get scholarships. We get, she has to do work study every year. So they make her do like 40 hours of volunteer work at the school to bring down the cost so that we make it affordable for us. And she said to me once, because her friends were all going on spring break, and I was like, what are you guys going to do on spring break? And she was like, they were thinking about backpacking in Europe. Dude, they were like 16. They were like 16 years old. And I go, back. I was like, first off,
You're 16.
You're 16.
You're 16.
I go, you're not backpacking in Europe. And then just before that, like my grandmother was still alive, and my grandmother had told my daughter about the time that my grandfather spent in Europe, like going country to country. And she goes, well, Grandpa Rudy got to do it. And I was like, that was World War II. I was like, that was not a trip with his friends going back. He didn't like put on like, he didn't like throw on like some suspenders and like walk through the mountains, He wasn't like in Germany, like going to Oktoberfest. Like he was fighting a war and he was 18 years old. Trust me, that was not a backpacking excursion. Yeah. But we were talking about it, and somebody was like, had asked me, oh, your grandfather's a military guy? Like, did you go in the military? And I'm like, well, no, but I did go parasailing, which is like, I didn't drop into Normandy, but I know exactly what it feels like to be up in the air, coming down in the blue waters of Hawaii. I know exactly what it's like fighting D-Day. I was like, no, of course I didn't, man. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I was at a time where I was 2 days away from turning 21 when 9/11 happened.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the reason why I was thinking about it is because my uncle was stationed in Hawaii, Schofield Barracks.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
But he was stationed there in 1982 to 1984. the best time to be in the military. There was nothing going on. Like there was no wars. Like those guys, and especially like we tell some stories about it. My uncle who called my grandfather from Hawaii and was like, I'm thinking about going AWOL. And he was like, you peel potatoes in Hawaii. You get high and surf all day. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you could probably get high back then. In the 80s.
You could. You totally could. He was
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? And he's like, dude, if you go, like, I fought a war for this country.
Yeah.
You literally peel potatoes. That is your job. You are a cook at the mess hall. That's all you do. You don't fight wars. You don't shoot guns. Like, what are you talking about? So to think about it, like to put it, why I brought it up is we were driving past Schofield Barracks, and when everybody was like, "Do you want to go into the military?" I had a thought about it, and I was like, "Military's great, and I have a lot of respect for it, but I don't need to go into the military. I don't need to be there. I don't need to because there's nothing going on." And in fact, I didn't even know what a terrorist was until 9/11. That's the crazy. And then I went back and I rewatched Naked Gun, I think it's 2.5, where they open up with that scene in the train station when they're walking, and
Vaguely,
all of a sudden the guy comes running in, the Middle Eastern guy, and he's got the beard and the vest, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, that was going on in the 90s? Like they had terrorists in the 90s? And then I start going back, and you're like, oh, there was terrorists in the 70s and the 60s? Like, this is insane to me. I didn't even know that's how good life was in the 80s and 90s. I had no idea that any of this stuff existed. Like, I didn't, wars, like the biggest thing I knew about a war was Desert Storm. How long did it last? 12 days or something?
Exactly,
like it was, that wasn't really a war, you know? Like to me it wasn't. I'm sure the guys who served it was, but in my 11-year-old brain, I'm like, oh, we got this conflict going on. I saw it on the news. People talked about it.
We crushed it. We're done. We're in and out.
We totally destroyed everybody, and then that was a war. Okay, but when I didn't need to go into the military, and in fact, when we were in Hawaii, we were on the boat, and they were doing like fighter jet training. And that is the thing I get saddest about every time I see a fighter jet, because that is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly plane because I'm that size, you know. And when I'm short enough, I'm only 5'6". At the time, I'm about 175 now. At the time, I was probably like 135, 140, you know. So I definitely fit the profile and then I was in San Diego doing shows in La Jolla, and they have, it's all military down there. And I see these dudes walking in, we're my girlfriend and I, we go to a bar that night after the show. We're out celebrating great shows. We had a fun time. A couple of people in the crowd, hey, come out to a bar. We're going, let's go drink. Let's have some fun. And then you see these dudes walk in, and it's just like right out of Top Gun. These dudes got on like super short haircuts. They got the aviators on. They got like the floral shirt. I was like, oh, that could have been me. That could have been me. I could have been Goose. And, man, Maverick. It would have been the best. But I see those guys all the time, and it saddens me that I never did that. That's the one part of my life where I'm like, if I could have gone back, that'd be the one thing.
They got waivers now if you want to.
Did they really?
Well, I don't know if you do fighter jets, but you could become a helo pilot.
What's a helo pilot?
Well, a helicopter pilot.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, the thing is like, so jets, I know this is my limited knowledge, but again, my buddy was here. He's a 6'8". He was, he thought he was going to do, but he was way too tall. He's like, I went to the academy, and then basically like, no, you're too tall. And he's like, didn't know that. and
it's like Little Miss Sunshine. You colorblind? You didn't know you couldn't go in colorblind?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're too tall. And but guys I know, one, it's in generalities, they're all super competitive programs, regardless. To be a fighter jet, whatever. But the beauty about the Army now, it's not fighter jets, but you can do attack helicopters at you could become what's called the chief warrant route. Chief warrant. You don't have to be an officer, but you do have to have like associate's degree or whatever. Eventually get it. And a few guys I know, it's kind of like this nice, not back way in, but because there's way more aviation in the Army when it comes to like helicopters. Marine Corps, you have to be an officer. The Army, you don't have to be an officer. You can be a chief warrant. Now, there are officers obviously fly, like the head pilot is an officer, but you can be a chief warrant and actually like fly like the Blackhawks, or you can fly the Apaches, or you can fly, Chinook. So you can be a pilot. Now it's rotary, we call it rotary wing. But then there's also, those guys go on to, if you really want to get spicy, you can go on to 160th SOAR, and they do tryouts to basically then you become a tier 1 asset to Delta Force and Dev Group. So they have their own dedicated 160th Air, so they call it SOAR, Special Operations Aviation Regiment. And they do wild stuff. That's that little bird, Black Hawk Down, the little birds. They're like, well, they also do the double Chinook. We call them Chinooks, but the double blade. And my buddies that have been tier 1 are just like, they fly and they're nuts. They're nuts.
We saw one this weekend. They're the double blades, but they have like the thing out the back, right? They like to like come down. Okay, because we saw one this weekend, and my daughter's like, "Is that a helicopter or a plane?" I'm like, "I think it's like a hybrid." But
it's
I
a
didn't
helicopter.
know what
Okay,
yeah.
And we use them all the time. Like,
wow.
Afghanistan, they're real good. They're heavy lift. You can get like squat in them, and then they drop the rear ramp drops, and then you can run off onto a mountainside or whatever. Yeah, they're cool, and guys do that, and they have reserves and all this other stuff. But so it's kind of, I would make a joke, but they now that they can, they have waivers up to a certain point. I think 35 is the official cutoff, but who knows?
Oh, really?
It depends on what you're doing, But
I know it's so sad when you hear stuff like that. Like, we can't take you over if you're 36 because you're too old. You're like, I'm 10 years past the cutoff.
There's some wicked waivers though. I've heard with some other guys with other, like, I know one dude was like 45 going to Special Force selection, which is way past the age.
Yeah,
and they waiver them in. I mean,
sure.
you have to do a lot to do that, but
But
anyways, no, it's wild. Like, that whole aspect of, especially, I mean, it's a whole different world too, that fighter plane and fighter jets and everything like that. It's crazy.
The other morning, American Sniper was on.
Oh, okay.
And I watched that, man. I'm just like, oh man, that would have been, I just get like so angry with myself about like, and especially because, my grandfather, fought World War II. My Uncle Mike has a Purple Heart, like these guys were like, they were military through and through. And basically, my grandfather was basically the one who told me one day up on a roof, he was like, you got to go. You're an artsy kid. Like, you're never going to be any of this stuff, like, in fact, the joke I do about it, it's sort of a true story, but my grandfather was like, you should be a comedian. And I go, oh, why? Because my grandfather owned a roofing company.
Yeah.
And I was on a roof with him, and he goes, you should be a comedian. And I go, why? You think I'm funny? And he goes, well, I think you're a shitty roofer. And it's basically in those words what my grandfather had said, because when we were up there, it was actually the last roof I ever did with him. It was like the day before I went back to school. So it was like Memorial Day weekend, and school started, and we were just, I was up hanging some gutters with him and fixing a woman's roof, and we were up there, and then he took a break, and we were just sitting up there, and he was like, you're going into your senior year. He's like, I really think, because everybody, that was the deal, was like, hey, you in the summers, you worked for the company, and then the plan was, you work for the summers, and then after you guys graduate, there's no college. You grab a tool belt, you get your ass up on that roof, you start pounding nails. That's what everybody's going to do. And my grandfather was sort of like, I see you drawing. I see you, you're an artsy kid. You play guitar. You're not, you're not one of these dudes who's, I also think because my grandfather, if World War II had not happened, my grandfather was recruited to play Division II football as a running back.
Really?
And I can't remember where he was going, but then, so that, but it was right after he was recruited is when World War II broke out. And him and his brother both were like, you're going to go carry a football when all of our friends are over there fighting, this is our duty. We have to go and do this. So those guys enlisted, and, football never panned out because by the time they got back. But, I think my grandfather, in hindsight, definitely much more proud of serving in the military than playing D2 football. Because, eventually he was never going to go to the NFL. But
well, back in the 40s, too, that's a different time of the NFL.
Absolutely.
It's not like it is today where you're getting multi-million-dollar contracts.
It was he probably made more money as a roofer than playing the NFL. But, I think... I think the stories and stuff, he didn't talk a lot about it, but, there's a crazy story where him and his brother, they go in the military at the same time. My grandfather goes to San Diego, and his brother goes to North Carolina. Now, obviously back then there's no communication. It was, you put a letter in the mail and maybe they get it 6 months from now. So these guys had not seen each other in like almost 2.5 years. My grandfather goes to World War II. He's fighting, and they take the boys take a night off. They had those like American pubs where you could go, the guys could go get a drink or whatever. And he's in a bar and he's having a drink, and all of a sudden, like some dude like runs into him, and my grandfather, kind of just turns around and says, hey, just watch what you're doing, man, you know. And then all of a sudden, guy kind of like runs into him again. My grandfather like turns around and says, hey, watch what you're doing. My grandfather's brother.
No shit.
Yeah, they were back to back. They like bumped into each other a couple of times. Didn't know it was them. Turned around and was like, what the what? Oh, like 2.5 years they had not seen each other.
That's awesome.
And just one random night in a bar.
Were they over in Europe?
They were in France at the time.
France.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Insane,
That's
right?
an insane story. Yeah,
so when you hear stuff like that, I think my grandfather took more pride in that than he did anything. And he really like very, very seldom did he ever talk about. He talked about like the good stories. He talked about like that story. He talked about the friends that he made. He never talked about war. He never, because he was still alive when I think my cousin had come back, and my cousin was talking about being in, like he was, obviously it wasn't past 9/11 because my grandfather died in 97, but I think my cousin came back in like 94 or something. And he was talking about being in the military, and he was like telling us, and my grandfather was just kind of sitting back like, yeah. You go ahead. How hard was boot camp again? Okay, yeah, great. Okay. You guys out there, you guys got all this modern equipment and all this nice stuff. Like, I mean, literally, like my grandfather duck hunted in the same like green jacket that they gave him in the military. And I was like, that's what you wore in a war? I was like, I mean, nowadays you got like, everything is not Kevlar. Everything is Gore-Tex, camouflage. Everything is like, it's waterproof. He's like, no. That's what we had. It was like, dude, that is insane. I mean, those guys just lived like such a, they were so hardened by the time they were at such a young age too.
Oh no! Well, the thing too is like my grandfather. I had both fought one in World War II in the Pacific. He was a anti-aircraft gunner.
Wow.
And then he was Marines. He joined the Marines because he didn't want to go in the water, and then ended up like
of
on
course.
a ship on USS Lexington. And he did the whole Pacific, or not whole, probably a majority of the Pacific campaign, shooting down Japanese kamikazes. And all that stuff. And then my other grandfather served in Korea. And I believe he was with the general, but they would go back and forth to the front line and get shot at, and then they would, whatever. But he was super quiet. But both of them, grandfather died when I was very young. It's almost the same time, like 97, 98. I was 8 years old, so when that happened. But my other grandfather served in Korea. That like stuck with him, and he was very much like, he never talked about it much. But then when we went in the Marine Corps and then got out, he was super quiet. He would like only talk with me and my brother. And he would just talk about the time in the Marine Corps, but he'd be like, you need to go to college. You need to use your GI Bill. You need to do that, and very proud. He'd start wearing his hat again. It was like, after 9/11, some of the older vets started like wearing because it was kind of became cool. Well, it is cool. I mean, I'm wearing a 9-line t-shirt with a flag on it. So, and great sponsor of the podcast. And 9-line apparel, 20% off, ITB 20. And, but it became more trendy, and you could see those older guys, even the Vietnam guys were like busting out more hats, and he would do the same. And my grandmother was like, he's never worn that Korea War veteran hat until like after, we had come back and whatnot. So yeah, it sticks with you, man. It's one of those things I clearly our generation embraces it much more than like say older ones. But cause some guys talk about that, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, you talk about those guys from that generation. They did their job. They came back, but it doesn't leave you. As much as they're like, oh, they never talked about it. I was like, yeah, because but it doesn't mean it didn't leave them. Like they were like, oh, I did what I did. Like, no. It stayed like your grandpa. Even though you didn't talk about it, it stays with them. Sure. It stays with you to the day. Like when you have dementia, like it's one of those things like in your mind, like the last thing that goes is like every military dude, it's like you get dementia or Parkinson's. The last thing to go is your memory of being in the military. Like that, you won't remember your wife or your kids, but for some god awful reason, you're going to remember boot camp. Or
it's like, it's like that in this first song you dance to at your prom. And exactly. That's all you're going to remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I always tell guys that it's like, no, like you don't ever forget it. You can't, not saying you can't let it go, but you don't let it go. It always stays with you. It's just how do you deal with it going forward, And they're a different generation.
Absolutely.
Like everyone fought. They came back. Like, yeah, of course we invaded Germany. And they're just like, yeah, no, I'm roofing or I did this job or that job, and everyone was like on that same page.
Yeah, my cousin did 2 tours in Afghanistan, Marine.
Oh, okay,
and every now and again he'll have a couple of pops in him and he'll tell a story, and I was like, you could keep that one to yourself, dude. I know we're with the boys, but I don't need to hear. But he's got some story about how he's walking. They're going like door to door at some point, and they are. One of the guys looks down, and this was I don't know where they were. It was Afghanistan somewhere, and one of the guys he's with, he kind of like gives him a nudge, and he looks. He's like, what is that? And he's like, huh? And he's like, it's like shiny gold. What is that? And he's like, I don't know. So he like takes his boot and he kicks it, and it was a ring. It was like a ring that goes on a hand.
Yeah.
And attached to the ring was a hand, and there was nothing else attached to the hand. There was no body on the hand except a ring and a hand, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he was like, that was commonplace, man. You saw stuff like that all the time, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys sleep.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think on your podcast, I told you about how we had the police call body parts.
Yeah.
And I was even in the military more. I was a contractor. That's working in high risk security in Kabul. We had suicide bombers hit our gate, and then the CIA compound next to us was their target, but we were next to them. Yeah, it was like we police called body parts after that.
That's
crazy. To make sure, because you don't want charred body parts.
Yeah, dude. When we were in Hawaii, we went to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And have you been?
Yeah, dude. Ironically, yes. But did I do that tour? Yes, I did do the tour. Yes, when I was in the Marine Corps, that was one of those things like I'll get to it, and then I leave. And I was like, I never got to it.
Yeah.
And then it was years later with my wife, Amanda, we were dating, and I was like hell bent. I was like, I need to go to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
So I went in 2016. Yeah.
Well, we went, my daughter and I both went, and my daughter has zero interest in any of this stuff. But I think after she went, she really did, she had an appreciation for it. Because this summer I had 6 weeks off. Michael Yo, who I tour with, was shooting a game show in Atlanta, and all the shows that we had booked together, he had to cancel. So I'm like, I got 6 weeks off. I'm just gonna. I literally drove around the country and went to like Mount Rushmore.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great, man. I drove from Vegas to Chicago. I did some shows in Chicago, and then just basically went to Mount Rushmore. I went to Yosemite. I went to all these places I had never been just to see the country, and especially while I was at Mount Rushmore, I really had like an appreciation because I don't know a lot of other countries. Maybe Canada's got it. I know Mexico's got like a lot of spots where, people go to and can appreciate the culture. But I don't know, maybe just because I haven't been to some of these places, I don't know a lot of places where you can go and appreciate your country and more of the population does not go. You know what I mean? Like so many people I've talked to, I'm like, you done Mount Rushmore? And they're like, never seen it. And I'm like, you live 4.5 hours from it. You've never seen it. And they're like, they have no interest on going. I'm like, why not? I bet it's beautiful. But the thing about it is, when we went, I was thinking about I guess maybe the only two that I can think of, the real only two places where there's a sort of like a story that is attached to it with, war connotations, or where there's like, something terrible is Pearl Harbor and Ground Zero, 9/11. And I've been to both. And when I went to Ground Zero, I was a little annoyed with how many people were taking selfies.
Oh yeah,
and being loud.
I could see that.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I loved about the National Mall is because I've done DC a bunch, like probably the city I've done the most in the last 5 years. And every time I go, I just go to the National Mall and I go and I look at that Vietnam War memorial, and I am just like, it's crazy how silent everything gets. People walk up to it. You shut your mouth, you be quiet, you can read, you can observe, snap a photo, none of this nonsense. You're not taking selfies, just be cool about it. And that's the one thing. We got to Pearl Harbor, and I guess since everybody's in vacation mode, they kind of go over the top to let you know that this is not a tourist stop.
Yeah.
You walk in.
Which is good, by the way.
Absolutely.
As they should.
I didn't think about that until we got into, you go on the tour when they bring you out to the Arizona. They have a park ranger who tells a story, and then he's telling this story, but he is intense. Yeah. And I was like watching him, I'm like, bro, bring it down a little bit, dude. Like, man, what are you doing? And then you get out to the boat that charters you out to the observation, to the memorial, and they have a couple guys in the Navy, and that dude got on the mic and he was like, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a tourist attraction. You will be silent. You will not laugh. You will not take selfies. And I was like, oh, I wish they would have said that back there. Because my daughter's like, boy, this guy's pretty intense, huh? And I'm like, I didn't think about it. And then once I got out there, I'm like, oh, yeah. There's still 1,100 men underneath your feet.
Yeah, they're buried in there.
They're just underneath you. And man, there was one woman. I was walking through that the memorial that's on top of the Arizona, and there was one woman who took a picture of. You kind of go in the back room, and it's got all the names of everybody who perished. And she took a photo, and she was back there crying. And I was like, there was almost a part of me, I felt bad for her, you know, but there was a part of me that's like, I'm kind of glad I saw that.
Yeah.
I was there when that happened. I don't know if this woman knew somebody, or maybe it was her great grandparents or whatever it is, or great grandfather that was there. But she's having a moment, and there was a part of me that thought, I'm so glad that my daughter got to see that. Yeah. I feel terrible for this woman, whatever she's going through. But it felt like that's kind of what you would expect there. And I'm glad everybody that was with was very respectful and cordial. And like, there's a guy, his name is Brian, and he's, they have in the memorial, they have like a giant sort of viewing area where you can see down into the ship. And that guy he must have like Parkinson's or MS or something, but he was telling the story, and he was trying to stand. He had a difficult time standing, but he was telling the story, and he told it with like so much pride. Like, you could tell this guy, and he's probably just a volunteer there, but he had so much pride in being associated with it. And he tells this whole story about, the Arizona goes down, and then there's the USS Missouri, and he tells the whole story about the Missouri. And I'm watching this guy, and he is like giving it his all to tell people, and he's sort of speaking a little bit louder so everybody can hear him. And then the next boat shows up with a group of people, and then we go to get on that boat. And as soon as those people get off, this guy's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the and he was like, it was nonstop. And it dawned on me, that guy stands out there for 4 hours a day and just does that over and over and over again. It was like the ultimate sign of respect for these people that died 80 some years ago. And there was really something about it. I was so glad of all the things that we did in Hawaii. I'm so glad that we took 2 hours out of our day to go do that.
No, and I'm glad that they do that, because I think in a little bit, the generations that fought that, and then it's like you don't have, I don't say the social decay by any means, but like it's one of those things where like it's the further you get from it, the less people respect it, or the generations just don't understand.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like 9/11. Like, if you were, because I was a freshman in high school. And so, but if you were like 7th grade or older, or 7th grade and younger, it doesn't have the impact.
No.
Because maybe you did fight in Afghanistan or Iraq, but that's one-offs. It didn't, like, the emotional impact. Like, and some people that were a little younger, like 8th grade, I had an ex-girlfriend that was like 8th grade. She was like, I remember. But if you get younger than that, like, Amanda understands, but she was like, she even says, she was like, yeah, I remember something happened. But you don't understand, like, this moment in your life, will change the world. Like, you're not old enough to understand, so it's a little bit different. But I agree. I went to won the 9/11 memorial in 2014, and it was wild. I remember going through, and again, you've gone through more recently, and I remember going through though, and they had the waterfall. And I'd gone a few times to New York, and they hadn't finished yet. They had finally finished like the whole museum. And that, dude, was just a trip. Like, I went solo. I was going to a buddy's wedding that I served with. He was in New York or Staten Island. So I was like, I'm going to check out the memorial. And I walked through there, and I was like, I almost lost it, because all those memories come back from that day. And then they start like reading the stories of like guys that like, that's what gets me, is like they came down with somebody and they're like, we got to go back up. And I'm just like, because what that's like to feel like I'm not coming back, but I'm going to go try.
Yeah.
And it's like that crazy feeling. And I mean, I agree. I'm glad they do that for like Pearl Harbor. And I don't know if they do that in New York. They should be doing it in New York for sure. Like, this is a memorial. 3,100 people were murdered and killed here.
Yeah.
This is not a place to show some respect, And
I know some girl's got a selfie stick, and she's like doing a peace sign with duck lips. I was like, what are you doing? Get out of here. There's go do that. There's so many other places in this city you can go and do. Go do that at the Empire State Building. Don't do it here.
Yeah. I wonder if because it's not military ran, whereas like Pearl Harbor, it's the Navy.
That could be.
And it's military ran, opposed to like it's city ran, or it's still a memorial, but it's not like they don't have like the Navy or the Marines. It'd be like, you will not say anything.
Oh yeah, they were intense. Yeah.
And they should. I think they should. I think that should be like a memorial site, because you need to set that tone. And if you balk at that tone, they kick you out. So then people are like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be messing around.
Absolutely.
In here, maybe I shouldn't be telling jokes or taking selfies or whatever. That'd be amazing. I would love for them to, because I guess I could see them taking selfies because around the waterfall. But as soon as you enter, that should be like a rule.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we're gonna kick you out. Like, oh, you're being a dick. Yeah, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not messing with you.
Absolutely.
Get out. Because the families around New York, I guarantee go, they lost their parents, that their friends were killed. They know like their friend's dad was killed. Like that affects the whole area. Yeah. So if you're going in there and people are trying to show their respects, like that'd be awesome if they did. I wish they would. But,
when you talk about the decay of society or whatever, I can't remember the term.
Decay.
Yeah, social decay.
Or even like social obligations, social contracts.
Yes, I
social
agree.
contracts.
I agree. Yeah.
Like even my wife, we have kids now. We had kids a little older. I mean, I have friends that had kids that were younger. They're 10, 12 or whatever now, and my kids are younger. But yeah, there's a few like social norms that like, I don't know, maybe it's, our generation or, you're a little older than I am, but even like mine or younger, like, they're like, we don't need to do that anymore. It's like, yeah, we do. There should be things that you should like, please, yes, thank yous, like just toughen up, there's a trend there. I'm sure you remember, not to go all like political correct or whatever, but when they were like, hey, don't say man up anymore. No, say man up. Yeah. It's man up. Yeah. They're like, they tried doing a trend. You saw it in one of the films. It was a Big Hero 6. They're like, woman up. No one says woman up. No, it's man up. Man up. And that's okay. Yeah. That's a social, these things are hard, and it's like, it's very hard. Yes, women do very hard things, but there's a reason why I say man up, because that's what you do. Like you just man up on the situation. Like, well, that's political. I don't care. It's like sometimes, and that's like a little scratch of the surface, but it's like some of those things where you try to take those away. It's like, no. Like these things are still hard. Yeah. Like social contracts are starting to, and even my wife, she's more on the liberal side, which is great, but it's like, which is totally awesome. But it's like, even she's kind of like, she's like, yeah, being with you, I'm becoming more conservative. I was like, well, no, you're trying to conserve like the liberalism that like we all agreed with when we met. Yeah. I mean, I tell people 2010 to like 2015, that was a sweet time.
Good time. Great I agree. Time. It was a great time.
Politically, you go to bars, you could be Democrat, Republican, no one cared. Everyone's riding a high. I remember it. I'd be like partying with at the U of M, and they're like, oh, you fought in Afghanistan? Like, yeah, what's it like? Well, this like, you think of this or that. And they're like, who you voting for? Oh, probably McCain. I don't know, maybe Obama. They're like, oh, okay, cool. It was great. It was just a great time. Yeah. It was awesome.
Dude, my daughter, my daughter totally interrogated me about who I voted for.
Yeah.
Like got on my grill about it.
Yeah.
It was like, did you vote for him? And I was like, first off, you are 17. Yeah. I am 45. I have no idea. I didn't even know if my parents voted, let alone who they voted for. Why do you care?
Yeah, I assume who they voted for. I don't know. I still don't ask them.
I don't care. We don't
That's
ask
a social contract
I'm
talking about. You don't ask.
We don't ask these questions.
You don't ask a woman's weight. You don't ask who you voted for.
Absolutely.
Or you don't bring up politics. Like I remember growing up, we never brought up politics. Ever.
I agree.
My mom hated it. My dad's side does, but you're on one side of the other family and they might talk more or whatever. But it was never discussed. Yeah. And we still kind of do, like me and my wife are like that. We're like, unless you are willing to have like a meaningful conversation, but even then we're like, we're doing the Minnesota nice, Midwest.
Absolutely.
Like, well, that's nice. How's the weather?
Change it right away.
We're not getting into this. Yeah, we're not doing it. The social contract, we're not getting into it because we know nobody here is going to have. They're not going to be adults about the situation, so we're not going to do this. We're not going to do it.
I do a joke about my girlfriend because she's very, very, very liberal, like far left liberal.
Oh yeah.
And I always say like I'm 50. When I had this conversation with my daughter, I was like, look at all of the. I was like, all the things that you really, really are passionate about: women's rights, abortion, gay marriage, all that stuff. I side with you on all of those things. Yeah. All of them. You and I, we're simpatico on all those things. Yeah. I don't care if you're gay. Get married. Doesn't matter to me. Yep. You need an abortion? Great. Don't use it as birth control. But hey, man, sometimes we run into terrible situations where it might not be the best thing, but at least it's an option that sometimes people can use. Because having a baby before you are ready, or a baby that's not going to do well, as a parent, I feel like you should be able to make those decisions. But hey, man, let's at least have that. Yeah. But there's two things, maybe one, maybe two. And one of the things I always talk about is, hey man, if you were born a dude and you want to be a gal, be a gal.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yep.
Just please don't play volleyball against my daughter. That's
Yeah.
all I'm asking. I don't
Yeah.
care. Just that's it. That's a very reasonable thing to ask. That's all I'm asking. And now all of a sudden I'm a MAGA bro, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
that's not what I am telling you, right? It's just one or two things, and that's everybody.
Yeah.
All we do is we disagree on one or two things, but you umbrella statement and go, that guy is on this side. Where like my girlfriend is like crazy far left. You could not go any more left than my girlfriend is. And I do a joke where I go, listen, I don't care who you voted for. Let's just try to just enjoy everybody's company equally. Yes, there's nobody on this planet that I disagree with more politically than my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And there's nobody else that I would rather be with than my girlfriend. And people ask me all the time, is it hard dating a Nazi? Yes, it's incredibly difficult. She makes me wear the boots and the mustache. It's not a thing, but I'm telling you. But when people hear that, they go, oh, and we've had many conversations with my girlfriend and I, you know, especially when she comes on the road with me because there's such a long amount of time in the car.
Yes.
It's, you know, sometimes I'm driving city to city. It's 4, 5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
And we start getting into topics and I'm like, we should stop.
Yeah.
Let's stop and get a cup of coffee.
You want to do this
And
right
then,
now?
Yeah, because I don't want to sit and get into this argument and then we're stuck in the car for another 2.5 hours.
Yep.
So let's find a gas station. We'll go our separate ways for 10 minutes and then we'll get back in the car and we'll enjoy the rest of our ride. And that's usually what happens. But you have to have people that are willing to be civil about it. And if they're not, then it's just, man. Because you're right. Because back in the day, dude, it didn't matter who you voted for. It didn't matter any of that stuff. And nobody cared. Nobody cared whatsoever. I didn't care who you voted for. Half the time, I didn't even. In fact, I remember listening. Remember Glenn Beck?
Yeah.
Yeah, the talk radio guy.
Conservative Glenn Beck. Yeah.
I was listening
Is he
to
still alive?
I think he is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I get confused with like, Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh's gone.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I thought. And there was like some others. I was like, I remember hearing.
Yeah,
them when I
Sean
was a kid.
Hannity, all those guys had
yeah.
radio shows. But I remember listening to Glenn Beck one day. I had no idea Glenn Beck was conservative or liberal. I didn't know. I was just listening to the show and I was like, oh, there's a couple of things he said where I kind of like that. Yeah, okay, I agree with him. Yeah, okay, that sounds sane. That's a sane thing to talk about. And then I would also listen to guys that were like super on the left. And I would listen and go, I don't know what side of the I don't care either. I'm just enjoying what you're talking about and you're passionate and you have a lot of facts that back up what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then all of a sudden one day somebody was like, you listen to that conservative Republican Glenn Beck? And I was like, he's a Republican? I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know. I didn't care. I just liked listening to him. It was, you're right. It was like 2010, 2011. I just liked the show. I didn't care what his politics were. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think people, nowadays you can't have that. Everybody has to have like a political affiliation. Even comedians now.
Yeah.
You have to have a political affiliation. I'm like, I don't want one.
Yeah,
I don't want one.
Yeah,
I don't need to.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I appreciate guys that can go out there and do it and still sell tickets and not have any sort of political. Shane Gillis, great at not choosing a side.
Yeah.
We all kind of know,
where he's at.
We know where he's at, but he doesn't bring it up.
Shane I think the reason I think we all love Shane Gillis, everyone does, is because they're our age. Like, he's a year younger than me, so it's really weird to think about. But I'm like, that's the buddy I served with in the Marine Corps. Was like Shane Gillis, like that East Coast. Like, and so when I hear him, it actually makes me happy because I'm like, that's exactly how when I'm with my buddies from the East Coast and or Pennsylvania or Philadelphia talk. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I miss that, you know? And then, but again, it's like, it's our generation coming into comedy. Like, that is we didn't care about it until now. Or we have our dads are hardcore Trump and then your mom's not, or whatever. Or you have family members that aren't, you know, like if you hear him talk about his family, you're like, yeah, man, like that's everybody in the US. And I think that's why people gravitate towards that. It's funny. It's the stuff you would tell your buddies in high school. And now it's just kind of out there. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think that's the weird, again, the social contract of that has now been kind of eroded on like, hey, dude, who cares? Like, it's fine. But then people just they get so like amped up.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, and it just kind of like spreads and spreads. And I think that's the one thing, like I always tell people, because before they ask the same thing. They're like, oh, your wife's like a Democrat. How do you do it? I'm like, well, okay, first off, we met before the 2016 election. So I think there's also a cutoff point too, where it was like, if you had met before, you're fine. If you met after, you probably would have never dated.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I would have. I'm like, would you have? She's like, probably, maybe. You know, it's like, but it got so polarized so quickly that if it's like, oh yeah, I voted Republican, people are like, well, I don't want to date you.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, man.
It's like, really? And so anyways, but we had met before that. But I always tell people that they ask, I'm like, well, first off, she's a conservative liberal and I'm a liberal conservative. And we're like right where 90% we agree, 10% we don't, or whatever. But we do agree and we support each other. Again, it's we meet where, it's not impossible, but and she agrees with me. She's like, God, the social contract is just like, which is a funny conservative thing to say, conservative. I'm like, you're a liberal trying to conserve old freedom of speech values. Guess where we are too. That's conservatives. Same way. We're on that same wavelength. Like, you can do what you want. Comedy's comedy. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have a messed up sense of humor. She's like, I would only laugh at It's like, by the way, you were with 90% of the population 10 years ago. So don't think, I think one thing that annoys me a little bit is when people say if that's problematic, like they're like, oh, I love The Hangover. It's a bit problematic. Just say it was a great movie and then move on.
Move on.
And just move on.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Don't preface these like weird like anecdotes. Again, the social contract on things, it's like, it's okay to laugh at messed up humor.
Yeah.
Like Tropic Thunder, everyone's like, oh, that's pretty problematic. I was like, really? Because it was like an $80 million it was like a $80 million comedy that murdered at the box office. Dave Chappelle. You may not be old enough, but we all remember the Dave Chappelle show.
Yeah.
That's why I say I think that time frame was the best. It was the best.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, that was your time. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, there was a time, like even like Key and Peele, like they kind of caught that last end of the wave. But they were doing amazing sketches. And like as filmmakers or as comedians or as actors, you're like, oh, dude, those days. Not saying that there isn't. There's still like pockets of it now, but it wasn't as like, that was like mainstream. Like you understood like that was mainstream. Like that was, everybody watched that. That was the network televisions. That was like the standard.
Yeah. There was, I got a short film. I got into the Twin Cities Film Fest. And there was one joke in there. One joke. It was one of the best scripts I've ever written. It was shot beautifully. It did it on this lake in northern Minnesota. We had drones. It was wonderful. It's one of the best things I've ever done. We're doing like a panel and some kid is there and he's like a 18-year-old, I don't know, some little squirrely kid. And the one joke was a guy, one of the bartenders in the show, in the movie goes, yeah, man, guys up here in northern Minnesota, they treat foreign cars like they do rappers. They never want to see their daughter with one. And that was the only joke. And I'm like, and
which would naturally, like, I laugh. I'm like, I know the joke. Like, I know,
And he goes, and the dude goes, we were doing this panel, and this guy was like, hey, my name is Justin. Really loved the movie. It was great. Whatever. One quick question about a joke that was in there, and I was like, okay.
You know exactly where this is going.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, joke, what joke is he talking about? Because there was no like bad jokes in there. And then he talks about like the foreign cars and rappers. And he made it, basically he didn't have a question, he had a comment. And it wasn't a question about the joke. It was, I really liked the movie, but I just didn't feel like that deserved to be in there. I just wish, I think what he said was, I wish I hadn't seen it. Or something like that. And I laughed and I go, well, it's our job as filmmakers and as scriptwriters to try to depict and represent a very accurate description or a type of person that is in our film. And I'm telling you right now that joke is very vanilla.
Yeah.
Compared to if you went to northern Minnesota and met a bartender at a bar in Bena, Minnesota, trust me, that joke is tame compared to what those guys talk about. And you're right. It was kind of right around that time when things were like, I have an opinion and I need to make sure that you know it.
And that's the social, again, the social contract of like, and I'm trying to like rack my brain for like not stuff so much political, but just like behavioral type of stuff. It's like just like very like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm getting old and crotchety. Well, so maybe like the generations before us were like, your guys are getting out of control. But like, I maybe just getting older, but it's definitely some, I don't know. Like I don't know. Sometimes you look back and be like, hey, yeah, this is something that we need. It's not even a crazy conservative thing. It's more of just like societal, like this was the social contract. Let's keep that social contract.
Yeah. Like the gal from TMZ when Charlie Kirk was assassinated and she was like screaming like, yes. Yeah.
Social contract.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
First off, now I don't want to make it a right or left thing, but if somebody were to like take out, even though I've always liked Tim Walz. I always have. I don't really know him. I've met him real quick but people who know him, I know like Nate Hood, who's a comedian here in town. Yeah. Tim Walz was his football coach and was like, he's a good dude. I like him. I've always liked him. Some things I don't agree with him politically, but I've always thought he's an okay stand-up guy. I think he at least has been attempting Maybe in the last couple of years he's shifted a little bit, but I think back when I was kind of rooting for him, I think he was kind of a stand-up dude. If that guy got assassinated, or if somebody hurt him or his family, I would be mortified if there was video of me cheering that somebody heard him. How terrible, and going back to like 9/11, could you imagine if social media was around when Pearl Harbor happened? Now there's people that photoshopped Hulk Hogan behind the second tower, like, I see photos like that, and I'm like, okay, I get that it's funny, but if you had a family member who died in 9/11, and then somebody makes a post about Hulk Hogan like giving the boot to one of the towers and it fell, wouldn't you be like, dude, how? If you have a woman who dies, maybe your mom got hit by a drunk driver, and then you're out there making jokes about drunk driving, it would kill me to know that somebody thought that bad about me, that they were like, oh, that guy doesn't have any decorum. Like, he has no tact. Like, doesn't he? That's why I hate that stuff.
Well,
man.
it's like, especially like in the public eye. Like, if you want to make jokes about it, you can. I mean, you send memes back and forth. You have a good time, but but it's like to the mass scale. And like, again, I think those are different than like, say, the Charlie Kirk assassination. Like, that's a different, like, people would be like, oh, like praising it. You're like, and it's not like the fringes. Like, it's like, you're nurses. You're like, and like people were like, oh, okay, now I know where you are, you know, like, and it's like, this is insane. It's completely insane. And it's like, okay, well, if that is how people are reacting, again, that social contract has now been, broken. And I think that social media is like, also your opinion doesn't need to be out there. You used to have to earn your opinion. Now here we are on a podcast.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? And people are like, well, everyone has a podcast. It's like, well, yeah, okay. I get it. But it's also like back in the day, your opinion, if it meant something, like it should have been heard, like you earned that, And then by the way, if you made the step, I don't say in the wrong direction or an improper decorum, you would be crucified, rightfully so.
Absolutely.
Like if you were a celebrity back in 2002 and you made, Bill Maher, what did Bill Maher? He got thrown off the air for praising the 9/11 hijackers as brave. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
People, he was thrown off, Now he's back and, and everyone was like, okay, I think he learned his lesson. Like, he talks about it, but it's like, yeah, okay, dude, like if you learned your lesson, like let's not try to be all big and bad here.
Yeah.
Because I listen to Bill Maher off and on. I'm like, okay, I get some things I don't like others, but again, in that world, but guess what? He was thrown off, and rightfully so. Like that was the social contract, like. And so, but now it's just like, dude, someone gets assassinated and it's all over. They're like, and then people in Hollywood are like, of course he deserved it. And you're like, wow, okay. Like you would have, like, if you're getting canceled for that, yeah, rightfully so. Like, yes, this is breaking the social contract. Imagine if some political thought leader in the Democratic Party was murdered. Are you kidding me? And all the right-wingers were like, absolutely. It would have been lost your minds, like. So I feel like that social contract, and I think social media is not good about it because everyone has an opinion now. Everyone has a take. And I feel like I think it's also a learning curve. Like I shouldn't lose my job for expressing my opinion. It's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Like this was a social contract before social media. If you express something, and by the way, if your opinion made it to your CEO in 2005, that's... You really messed up because that like had to climb through the ranks. You had to put some effort into that for it to be seen. Now it's like, I'm a freelancer, but if you work somewhere or if I would work somewhere and I'm like, I'm talking with Rudy and we're talking about political discourse, to be like, let's not, I don't know. Like, I have to take the risk, and some people just don't talk about it, which is kind of a social contract, like you do you on your own time. I'm a freelancer. I don't work for you, and so, I do work for people, but it's like, this is my own thing. And they're like, and some companies are good. Like, look, that's their own thing. Like, that's not a part of us, or they want to distance themselves or whatever. But I do think I agree with you, where it's like, I don't know. I feel like some of that decorum is like gone. Like you can show your respects. You can do this. Cause now that's blown open, and I don't like it, but when something probably eventually inevitably bad does happen to, say, a Democrat or whatever, don't expect the same.
The same. You're right. I agree.
Don't expect to be like, oh man, we're so sorry. Expect what the reaction was to Charlie Kirk,
absolutely.
Which I don't like at all. I don't want conservatives to be doing that. I don't want liberals to be doing that. But now I think that now is broken, and like because of social media, because of social contracts of like, maybe you should just keep your mouth shut. Maybe I don't want to hear your opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're in, that was okay. Good social contract. Talking about that, this one's come to mind now. When you're in someone's house, respect the household. Very simple.
Yes.
Very simple.
Absolutely.
If I go into somebody's house and I don't agree with anything, they would be like, I'm very like, oh, thank you so much.
Yep.
You have a lovely home.
Yeah.
You know,
keep your mouth shut, move on to the next thing.
I will leave and be like, that was awkward.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't say it in front of you just kind of like, thanks for hosting us. And you leave.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you coming in hard and fast in my front door, spouting opinions.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. No.
And what a stupid reason to lose friends.
Yeah, exactly.
What a dumb reason.
Exactly.
I don't care what you think about the politics or who you voted for. I don't care.
We're trying to get together and have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's just have a good time.
Yeah. Dude, I was in Las Vegas for the 4th of July, and I went to guaranteed the gayest 4th of July party ever. Dudes in Speedos. There was a guy in a cape and like a leather cod piece. And I was like, and I guarantee if any of my friends saw me at that party, they'd be like, what the hell are you doing here? I don't know. Having a good time. It's 4th of July.
It's 4th of July.
I don't give a shit. None of these guys are trying to make out with me. I don't care. I'm having friends. My 2 lesbian friends brought me here.
Yeah.
They're a blast. I've known them for years. I don't care about any of this stuff. Is this a great pool with an amazing house and like free drinks and everyone's having a blast? Yes. So why do I have to be like, oh, just because you're gay and I can't go and party with you? Stupid. What a dumb reason. I don't get it, man. You know? Yeah. When I see like you talk about the social contract, I haven't thought about it much, but I love that you brought it up because it really has. It's really like disappointed me what we think is acceptable, you know, regardless of people's political affiliations, that we feel like we're so entitled that to our opinion and nobody else is allowed to have a different opinion.
Exactly.
And the second that you do, because they always say, you know, like, you're totally okay to have a different opinion. No. I'm okay to have an opinion as long as it matches your opinion. And then you're okay with me. Yeah. And I hate all of that, man. Like, you know, my grandfather was very, which I love the guy, but I definitely know that what he said and what he did were 2 wildly different things. Because like a lot of people, especially northern Minnesota, they talk about how it's very Democrat. They're very, very Democrat. But what they say and what they do is definitely very Republican. Yeah. You know, I have a lot of people in my family.
Well, it's the unions up there, right?
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah, it's like union. It's the mills or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a lot of
you would vote Democrat because of the unions.
Yeah, but it's filled with dudes who definitely are Republican. You know. And my, you know, my
weird. So you can, you can lead both lives.
Yeah, I have a relative who's just like, it's these damn Republicans constantly with these damn Republicans. Yeah. And then also in the same breath, we'll say something like, you know, if you're on Snap, you should get drug tested. And you're like, do you know which political affiliation you're a part of? Like, I don't think you do. You know? So so it's kind of wild. Like, you know, they'll spout off about certain things, and I was like, you know, and that's why anytime I'm in a conversation with somebody and I can definitely tell that they have way more information about it than I do, I will never try to seem smarter than what I am. And that has taken me a very long time, because I always thought I need to be able to match wits with these people and then realize, these guys are filled with facts. I'll never be able to beat them. So instead, how about sit back, ask questions? Yeah. Because you're going to learn about, and maybe, who knows, maybe you change my mind about things. At least I know I'm well enough in my own head that not everything I think is the end all be all. I'm okay enough to go, you know what? In fact, somebody brought it up to me. I would always talk about Dan Gladden.
Who's that?
Minnesota Twins.
Oh, okay.
So was the left fielder, Minnesota Twins. I met Dan 1988. 88. Must have been 1988. I was 8 years old at the time. And Dan Gladden would not sign an autograph for me. And I was like, you know what? Screw the Twins. I'm out. I'm not a fan anymore. I know you just won the World Series. Not a fan. And I just quit being a baseball fan. Until 2001, when I went to Miller Park in Milwaukee, became a Brewers fan. Yeah. Best day of my life. I became a Brewers fan. I love being a Brewers fan. And this was probably about, 8-9 months ago. You know, Brewers are on a hot streak. I guess not even that long ago, probably 2 months ago. They're in the playoffs. And somebody goes, "You're from Minnesota, right?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You're a Brewers fan?" I was like, "Yeah." Well, here's what happened. You know, the Minnesota Twins, they win the damn World Series. They start driving around the state doing autograph sessions. I see Dan Gladden standing outside of the Civic Center in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Dude's back there smoking a cigarette. I come up to him. I go, "Hey, man, can you sign an autograph?" Dan goes, "No, you got to go get in line." And I'm like, "Well, hey, man, I'm here." He's like, No, kid, you got to go get in line. And I was like, "He wouldn't sign that autograph." And somebody goes, Well, dude, there was a whole thing. People were there too. He would have signed your autograph if you would have gone to the line and did it like everybody else. But because you thought you were so special, you didn't have to go stand in line. Yeah. And literally, I have been walking around with that story for like 37 years, and I'm like, you are 1,000% correct. I have been holding Dan Gladden accountable for my not liking the Minnesota Twins when it was all my fault.
Yeah.
And it didn't dawn on me. And then at that moment, I was like, you know what? Yes, you're right. I have now changed my mind about Dan Gladden.
And he listens to this podcast.
Yes. Dan Gladden right now is standing outside with his earbuds in, smoking a cigarette, going, I remember that fat little kid.
I remember that
little shit. I'm so glad I didn't sign that goddamn autograph. But had he not, it wouldn't have led me to be a Brewers fan, which I have had so many great, amazing memories with all of my friends from Wisconsin. I've loved that team ever since. So in hindsight, it was great. But at least I know myself well enough that when somebody looked at it from a different light, I went, oh, you're right. I have that was on me. That wasn't their fault. That wasn't Dan's fault. That was totally on me. So I think that if you had a little bit more of that in life, where I can definitely tell I'm outwitted by a lot of people.
Well, and also too, if you're willing to and then, by the way, some of the best conversations I've had are political conversations, but everyone enters it and there's just people, like this, we can't have a conversation. Like, you just know they get too emotional.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't, again, you didn't run into it as much back in the 2010-12 era. But there's a few people that recently in the last few years, it's like, oh, cool. I was like, you ready to have this conversation, but civilly? And they're like, yes. And you actually, they follow through. Those are great because you are having a good time. Like, you can explain your position, they explain theirs, and you debate it civilly. And then everyone's like, oh, that was fun. Well, let's watch a movie now. If you're you're going to that conversation, I feel like people just get way too emotional and way this is it. And if you don't agree with me, then you're a fascist or something. It's this is crazy. The goalposts have shifted so much. The Overton window, they call it. It's just so wild.
Yeah.
Because I remember being and again, it was awesome. I was backpacking through Central America, and I ran into a professor from Seattle, Washington, and he was a Central American professor. And so that was his expertise in the world he taught at college. We ran together because he backpacks every summer through Central America and speaks the language and whatever, and he goes and teaches at this university. And me and him sat down at this hostel, and shirts are off, I'm smoking a cigar, he's having a beer, and we just had this amazing conversation about geopolitics. And he doesn't know a lot about the Middle East or whatever. So, and I was getting my intelligence degree, and not only have I fought there, but I was also understanding the geopolitics behind it. And we had this great conversation for a few hours, and there's a big group of Israelis that were there, and so they formed a circle just to listen to me. It was this weird. It was really cool though, and we just debated and talked and had a great time. And this one dude tried chiming in who was 19, very much what you and he it wasn't even me. It was the professor. Again, a social contract. Probably before professors stereotypically went off the rails. A lot of people think now. He turned to him and was like, "Stop talking." Literally, he was like, stop. And it wasn't me that said it. The Marine that was former Marine that is now a Blackwater contractor. Yeah. Talking with this professor of Latin studies, from Seattle, Washington. And it was I think it was it captures a moment in time when, and probably it was before that, where you would have civil conversations. We're all having a beer. We're in this beautiful hostel, awesome in Panama. And you're just, you could talk like that. Yeah. And then if somebody tried breaking the social contract, they're like, no, you're not going to do this right now. You're not going to create a scene and get overly emotional. And that's flipping the opposite now. Yeah. Now it's no one can even have that conversation. God forbid, try having a regular, not say non-emotional, but just a civil sit down. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And I feel as you talk about you earned your opinion, I also feel there are people out there that have earned the right to not be interrupted. Yes. And when I see guys like you with what you've done, military, and what you're doing now, and how intelligent you are, and just hearing you being able to rattle off facts, I think you are somebody who has earned the right to not be interrupted. Where dum-dums like me, even in the middle of a show, somebody can interrupt me and I'm like, you're probably right. You're like, I should probably shut up about that. I don't know what I'm talking about. Where guys like you, it's almost like when you see those videos of the guy who is screaming and getting in the guy's face at a football game. He's like, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? And the guy's like, I'm asking you to please calm down. He's like, because you're a pussy. You ain't going to do anything, are you, bro? You ain't going to do nothing. And then it smash cuts to the guy who's being very rational. That guy in a UFC octagon just pounding somebody's face in. And you're like, that guy saved you from not kicking your ass, you know? I feel like sometimes when you hear people who are just like, people start getting in the face of guys with tons of intelligence, they just go, maybe we shouldn't have this conversation. They're not doing it because you outsmarted them. They're doing it because they're about to school you and make you look stupid. And they're doing you a favor by not opening their mouth right now. So they just go, let's not have this conversation.
Yeah, but you were in that though too. I mean, you've been around, like saying like your KS95, you have, you know what I'm saying? Like you've definitely earned that with intelligence, with, your comedic work and like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I feel in certain avenues, maybe. Yeah, in certain things, I've been like, okay, I've done this enough. Where if somebody told me I'm doing it wrong or I'm different, I would go no. But I think for the things that really matter in life, I think there's guys who who have earned their right to be able to say what they want, and that was the one thing I really liked about watching Charlie Kirk videos is. There was a lot of people who didn't necessarily know. I didn't even really know Charlie Kirk.
And by the way, a lot of people didn't. Like I knew it was weird. I guess maybe impacted me a bit more because I was obviously I'm more conservative, but like I've known of him for a decade. So when the college tour, because I was in film again a decade ago. I was on YouTube a lot and I was in film school. But that's when YouTube really started becoming its own. It had been around for years, but that's when it really started finding its footing of like podcasts. Yeah. Talking, people were starting to make careers or making careers from YouTube. And that's where the youth would go. I was younger. I was 26, 27. So, I'm 38 now, but like that was 12 years ago. Yep. You would go to YouTube to check out even if you're politically active, that was a medium. People forget that like Obama was the first one to do that with Facebook. Sure. So people were like, "Oh my God, you watch on YouTube?" I was like, "Yeah, you voted for Obama because he went on Facebook." Yeah. You found out about him through Facebook.
Dane Cook blew up because of MySpace.
Predating. So like, I think people forget about that. It's like, I watched him on YouTube. Well, he's only a YouTuber. Yeah. Well, Obama was a Facebook politician. Yeah. Like, which was great, which was awesome. Like, as he should have. He saw the youth vote. And they went after it, which is great. It's like, dude, totally. Like they write books on that type of strategy. You know what I mean? So, I agree. When it kind of comes to that stuff, like people are starting to rewatch that stuff, and then the evidence is all there. So when you see people take things out of context, you can't even do that anymore. Yeah. You're like, bro, here's the real clip. And then I saw a bunch of guys because they don't know who he was. They saw the clip. They're like, well, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, watch the clip. Or I'd also be like, you might not agree with this, but you have to understand this guy is not an extremist. Like he's about 5 degrees to the right of me. Yeah. Like he has his takes because he's a political commentator. He's going to say some things that are spicy, but don't think you guys have crazy, spicy people too. Like these aren't like treasonous, need to be assassinated type. Like, oh my God, if we let this run loose, who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. And I think a lot of people were upset too. Cause I mean, it's like, very active in the college space because that was his space. Absolutely. And there's no one. So I guess for me, it impacted me. I was like, I remember it happened. My buddy said, I was like, oh my God. Like it's one of those things where you remember, at least not everybody, but for the Republicans, if you're younger and are somewhat active, I don't even say active, but like in that realm, you're going to know kind of who he is. Like my dad was like, who's this guy? And generational type thing,
and I know the only thing I wish about the Charlie Kirk stuff is I know they really push out videos where it's just people with they're just morons up there babbling. And they have no real. They just kind of want to prove him wrong because they don't know whatever it is, and he's up there just rattling off facts. Yeah. Every now and again, you come across a clip where he is matched wits with somebody, and you go, that guy. That is a guy who has earned his right to not be interrupted. He's filled with facts. They go back and forth. But for the most part, those videos are just fun to watch. It's like watching American Idol, the people who suck. Yeah. You watch these people get up there. They're staring at their phone the entire time. They're rattling off something they just read on the internet the night before. There's really no...
Well, the other thing, too, is like also like some people are like, well, he's schooling these college kids. I was like, that's the point of college. Like, they're like, well, they don't know anything. They're in college. I'm like... this is the point. Like,
Yeah.
you should be challenged in college. Like, you should have well, he was older too now, but he started when he was younger.
Sure.
And it's like, that's the point. Like,
Yeah.
that's the point. Like, you, if you are not being challenged or they're like, well, he was older going, I was like, yeah, because where you think you're going to go, like, you are going to have to face the masters. And if it's amazing that somebody will come to you with that type of experience or knowledge and then challenge you on it. If you're 19, you should be being pushed. That'd be like somebody like me joining the military, be like, well, he's only 19. Why would he go fight the Russians? Like, well, that's the point. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe they're sending him to war and he's only 19. Like, no, that's the point.
Yeah,
You know?
right. Yeah, they're malleable and bendable.
You join the military for a reason. You go to college to learn, to be pushed.
Absolutely.
You know, now it's, you know, and I think, I don't know, landscape's changed a lot. So even when I was partying at the U, you know, and my friends were going, and then I went to even Minneapolis Tech, you felt the shift, you know, like that was always weird because people were like, oh, you went to film school. How were they like crazy liberals? Like, not really, because it was like, it's a community college. So your mixture was everywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like USC where people were pretentious. These are like college, these are community college. Yeah. Like these, you know, like these are people trying to figure out if they like this, then maybe, or they can barely afford it. And they got like 5 other jobs. Like this isn't, these aren't like snooty, you know, like this is actually the people that like, if they really want to do this, this is where they come.
I'm blown away that a film school can exist in a community college and it is as renowned as it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is. And like people know about it. Like,
I've been in LA. I've been on sets. People like, where are you from? Minneapolis. Oh, I knew a guy who graduated MCTC, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, get out. Yeah, they know about it for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, even my professor talks about that where they're like, our short films are better than USC grads.
Yeah.
And because we learn the techno, now once they go to their MBA, then they're like, they start jumping ahead, and it's like, well, that's where our program ends. Like we're only associates, you know. And it was awesome. I loved it, every second of it. But yeah, it's when it came to that, like, you know, it was like I remember everyone's in class, and we're all. It was fun because no one had like. I remember working with. I was more of like the commercial Ridley Scott, Michael Bay guy, and we had this. She was very talented too, and she was like lesbian, hardcore indie filmmaker type. But I remember she'd come up to me she was like, "Hey, can you work with me a little bit? Because I like this. I like how you shoot." And I was like, "Yeah, of course. Like that's what we're here to do. Like you know, I like your stuff. Like there's DJ PJ. I mean, I don't remember if you remember David James Peter John.
Oh,
do you remember him?
That name sounds familiar.
Everybody remembers his name. Phenomenal DP, like great. I remember seeing his stuff. I'm like, why? What? You know, like it looked like it would go on at least a TV show, or you know, like it would at least qualify for TV movie.
Sure.
You know, and I was like, man, and it was just simple setups. Like, dude, it looks so good. Like, how do you do that? You know?
Yeah.
But you were there to do something. You weren't just there to talk. It was it was just a different type of vibe. But yeah,
Yeah, that's why, you know, doing short films for MCTC students, I was like, yeah, why not, man? Let's do it.
Yeah, because you run the gamut. You're like, these guys are talented. You're like, I hope this doesn't see the light of day.
Yeah.
These guys are talented.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know, getting to know some of the people that I've had lifelong friendships with now, you know, like Chuck Struck, guys like Chris Grosjean, guys that, you know, I've worked with who I've called many times and been like, I just need your expertise on this. What is your opinion about it? And then they give it to you. It's nice to have guys like that that you can just chat with and have, you know. So yeah, anytime I see, like a Z-Fest film or something, there's times where I watch them and I go, oh, you can tell that they must have gone to MC. There's somebody because they know what they're doing. It looks so good. Yeah. So
yeah, and that's a whole nother world. But yeah, it's insane, dude. Yeah. Dude, first of all, we've gone this whole gamut.
Yeah.
We got to talk about you, KS95.
Oh.
Local, dude, you are a local legend.
Oh, man. Well, that's very nice.
We're an hour and a half in.
Are we? No way. That far already? My goodness, man.
I need to get into the origins a little bit here of Rudy Pavich.
Oh, you know, man, thank you. It's very nice of you to say. I've been so removed from radio now that it feels like it was a second life ago. It just, I there's things about it that I miss. There's things about it that I'm glad I got out when I did, you know?
How long were you in it? And how did you even get in it? Because, I mean, radio is probably a weird medium. I mean, it's a weird medium to me now.
Yeah.
And I grew up with it. We all grew up with it. And it was such a main thing. And it's like, oh my God, that's a big, and now we're like, my wife still listens. I'm like, I haven't listened to radio in like over decade.
Yeah,
maybe
I couldn't
longer.
imagine, man. No, I mean, I was at the gym this morning just listening to my Spotify, and I was like, man, that between podcasts and music, there's no
audiobooks. You're like, it's like feels like when you listen to something now, you're like, it's not just to be there. It's like you're learning something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, oh, even a podcast. I want to learn about this, or an audiobook. I want to learn about this book or whatever. Like, it's not just like, hey, welcome to the radio. It's like, oh, cool. It feels like you're accomplishing something when you want to listen to something that gets you somewhere that you want to know.
Absolutely. And that's the problem with radio, is that radio has not evolved the way podcasting and the way that music has, and in the platform. They just, I mean, I turn on the radio every now and again, and I'm like, you guys are still playing Gin Blossoms? Like, I listen, I love the song, and when I'm out having a couple of drinks and it comes on the playlist on Spotify, it's great. But I don't need it on the radio.
Blossoms, that's a long throwback.
I know, right? Yeah. But they still play it. It's like, I turned on 93X the other day, and like they were playing Godsmack, like from 1997. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, your audience has moved. They don't listen to this stuff anymore. And the guys that are, I mean, there's probably guys who are a lot of construction dudes who still listen to the morning show, but I mean, other than that, man, people just put in their earbuds and they just listen to music all day. They don't want the commercials. They don't want the pandering bullshit. They don't want you're listening to, you're listening to 93X, brought to you by the Sherwin-Williams Studios. And you're like, what the, Jesus, man. Every time you turn around, you guys are trying to sell something.
How'd you get into that? Like, well, how do you even, especially back then, it's a big deal.
Back then. In fact, I was just watching Stranger Things, a new season, and they open up with a shot at a radio station.
Nice.
And I was thinking, I was like, oh, that's fun for me to watch. I wonder how many people are going to watch and have to ask their parents, like, what the hell are they doing? What is that thing that they're talking? That's the weirdest podcast I've ever seen, you know? But yeah, so I was supposed to be obviously a roofer. That was the deal with my grandfather. And then when I realized that roofing was not going to be my thing, I had to do a job shadow in high school for a trade. So I chose plumber. And I went on a job shadow with the city plumber. I'm from a small town, northern Minnesota. So I did a whole day with this guy, like going in and out of the government buildings, the memorial building, the high school. And he's like showing me how the sewer system works and the pipes and all that. And I'm like, oh, I can get into this. He's like, dude, you become a master plumber. Out the gate, this is 1999. Out the gate, dude, you've been making like 75, 80 grand a year. And I'm like, let's do that, man. And I was still a pretty artsy kid. Like I played a lot of guitar. I drew a lot, skateboarded, I snowboarded, and listened to a ton of music. And I was lucky that I went to school with this kid named Jason. Jason was a couple years older than me. And Jason was like the first kid that I saw who loved the Beastie Boys and Slayer. And I was like, oh, you can do that? I thought you had to just pick one, and that was. He's like, no, just if you like,
and you
just
had to
listen.
fight people in the parking lot.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, you can listen to Metallica and NWA, and I was like, that's crazy. Yeah. But that's really like when I met him is kind of when my musical taste and like creativity and art really started coming about. And then for my senior year of high school, they had a local radio station, WMFG, and they would like groups of seniors come in and just play an hour of their own music. And they let you read this hour of music is brought to you by Swifty Car Wash, blah, blah, blah. And they let you read the ads, and you'd play a couple commercials, and you play whatever your favorite songs are. And we went in, and it was me and three of my friends, and we did an hour on the air. And afterwards, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I was so excited when I got back to my house. I was like, Mom, radio is what I'm doing. Like, no plumber. We're done. Radio is what I'm doing. From that moment on, I studied radio stations. Like, I would listen to radio stations, and I would write down every element that happened. So I would write like, I'd be in the car, and I'd have a piece of paper with me, and I'd be listening to a song, and I would write down the name of the song. Okay, what's the next thing that happened after that song? Okay, they went into, and at the time I didn't know what to call it, so I just called it commercial, but it would be like, the thing where it would be like, 93X, and then it would go into the song. So I would just wrote down commercial, and then whatever the next song was. And then, okay, they didn't put like a sweeper or like a bumper in between. They just went back to back on that song. Okay, why did they go back to back on that song? Oh, how many commercials are they playing? What times are the commercials playing? How long are the commercials? I was writing down everything. So I get down to Mankato, Minnesota. I moved down there not to go to school. I just went down there because a couple friends of mine were going to college there. I had nothing going on. I'm like, I'll just move there. So I moved down to Mankato. I got a job at a pizza place that a friend of mine used to work at. And I'd been there for about 6 weeks. And then I got a second job at Mount Cato, which is like their ski hill. And I just basically wanted the job for free snowboarding. So I had called a radio station, cold called them, and was like, wondering if you guys have any internships. They were like, we don't really do internships, but you know, I don't know. They're like, are you going to college? I'm like, no. They're like, you just want to work for free? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, well, we'll let you know. I don't hear anything. I hear nothing back from them. About 6 weeks go by. I get this job at the ski hill. I'm supposed to start Monday. I get a phone call. I was at work, came home to my answering machine, hit the button, and it's this guy named Mike Hammer. And he's like, hey, I'm looking for this guy named Rudy. We need an intern. You want to come up and do an interview with me on tomorrow morning at like noon. Be here. Click. I don't even have the job yet. I call Mount Cato and I'm like, I can't take the job. I'm sorry. And they were like, why? And I'm like, I just got an internship at a radio station. Didn't get the internship, So I just hung up the phone, went to the thing the next day, met Mike at noon. It wasn't even, he was like, my boss said you'd work for free. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, can you like make copies and stuff? I'm like, sure. And he's like, great, you're hired. So it started the next day, was an intern on the KXLP morning show for about a year and a half. Then went down to La Crosse, Wisconsin, like cold called and just pounded on the door of the program director until he gave me a part-time job to move to La Crosse. I moved to La Crosse, Wisconsin, packed up everything I had, moved to La Crosse, Wisconsin to literally work one shift a week. An overnight shift on a Friday, back when that station was still on CDs. So they had to have a warm body there. So I'm like, I'll just take whatever you got. I'll just take it. So I moved there. I'd been there for about 5-6 months and the overnight girl left. And that job became open. I got that job. Now I started doing overnights. I moved down to nights. The company that owned us then had a couple of radio stations around like Springfield, Missouri and all these different places. Get a job through the company at Springfield, Missouri. I drive down to Springfield, Missouri. I'm there for 18 months. The morning show opens up back in Wisconsin, back in La Crosse at my old radio station. Pack up all my shit, go back to Minneapolis, go back to La Crosse. And the whole time I'm infatuated with 93X in Minneapolis. I love that radio station. I loved everything about it. I love the attitude. I love the sweepers. I love the sound. I love the songs they played. The DJs, I mean, dude, Ton Mastery, Remy Maxwell, the Half-Ass Morning Show, Patrick, all these people that I just loved so much. And my dream was one day I will be afternoon drive at 93X in Minneapolis. You are not stopping. In my mind, I'm like, once I get that job, I'm done. I'll just get that job and then life is over. I'll just do that job until the day I die. That's what I'll do. And I had worked my ass off, man. 7 years had gone by of me just taking shit job after. I mean, I was working part-time at a bar and then taking part-time jobs, working anywhere I can just to be able to make ends meet. And one day, I'm doing the morning show in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and a friend of mine calls me and goes, hey, somebody from 93X just called me and said, I'm looking for a night guy. Do you know anybody? I gave him your name. And I'm like, get the fuck out, no way. And they're like, okay, so call this guy. He wants to talk to you. If it goes well, they'll bring you up and do a test shift on a Saturday overnight. So you'll be on the air from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. on a Saturday. And I was like, okay, because in my head, I'm like, if my boss finds out that I'm doing this, I'm fired. I'm totally fired. But fuck it, you have to go do it. You have to do this. So I drive up to Minneapolis. I tell him, I'm like, oh, I'm going to a concert. I can't do it because we were supposed to do some stupid thing for the radio. I'm like, I can't do the thing. I got to go to Minneapolis. I'm going to a concert with my sister. Come up to Minneapolis on a Saturday. Get on the air, 93X. Do the overnight shift, 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. Come back the next day, drop off their commercial log, drop off their music log, said, thanks for everything. Really appreciate if this doesn't go anywhere, I just want to say thank you so much. I drive back to La Crosse that Sunday morning. Monday morning, I'm on the air. Somebody calls the radio station and goes, dude, I was up in, we're live on the air.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, I was up in Minneapolis this weekend. Were you on a radio station up there? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And my co-host is looking at me like, I what are you doing? Are you insane? And like we got off the phone. I was like, so we go to commercial break after that. I was like, I don't know who you were listening to. It wasn't me though, dude. And he was like, well, the guy just sounded exactly like you. Get off the air, and my co-host is like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't do this, did you? I'm like, I had to. Like, this is my dream. I had to do this.
It's 93X.
So, yeah. So the next day, Wade Linder, the program director of 93X, calls me and goes, dude, we want to offer you the night job. And I'm like, amazing. I am one step away from my dream job. Mm-hmm. I take the job in Minneapolis. I move up here. I'm on the air for about a year and a couple of months. And at the time, they had fired Remy Maxwell and this guy named Andy Ditter.
What time? What time frame was that?
So this is like 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. So
because that's like I'm thinking of like when I was a kid, knowing 93X here in Minnesota. If anyone's listening, 93X is a rock station here.
Yeah.
Big rock station, Minnesota.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest in the country.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which a little side note. KQRS 92.5 with Tom Bernard. One, it's like it was like number 1 or 2 in the
years.
nation.
For years and years.
Weirdly, the Midwest or Minnesota had top radio station.
Oh, top radio and TV, and still do to this day.
Yeah,
the TV here is amazing. Radio's gone down, but TV here is incredible.
What was oh my God, the guy in New York.
Mancow, Howard Stern.
No. Wow. He's the biggest radio host in New York, all over the world.
Howard Stern.
Yeah. Like Howard Stern tried moving into the market.
Oh, yeah.
And like Tom Bernard still muscled him out.
Yeah.
Like that's how kind of big.
That's how big
if you put a context for my listeners here, if they even care. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So 93X big, and this was 07.
Like 06. Okay. Actually, yeah. So I think I got that job in September of 2006. Mm-hmm. And then so the following year, it was 2007 going into Christmas. So we're going into Christmas, and I'm doing nights at the radio station. We find out that my girlfriend at the time is pregnant. Mm-hmm. So I take a part-time job at MGM Liquor in Uptown because like now I got a baby on the way. Now we got to get an apartment together. You know, like things are moving. I'm starting a family. Mm-hmm. So I take a part-time job. I'm doing nights at the radio station. I'm working during the day at MGM Liquors. I'm going to make a liquor delivery. It was a weekday. It was like a Tuesday or something. I get in the car and I would listen, to Andy in the afternoon. I would get off at like 5 o'clock, and then I would just drive to the radio station. I get in the car to make a delivery, turn it on. Andy's not on the air. It's another dude who worked at the radio station. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, that's weird that Andy's not on. And the dude who's filling in for him is not saying like, hey, what's up? It's Pablo. I'm sitting in for Andy. And I'm listening to like 6 or 7 breaks. And I was like, he hasn't mentioned Andy's name yet. I'm like, why the hell hasn't he mentioned Andy's name? I get back to the store. My phone rings. Somebody I work with. They go, dude, they fired Andy Ditter today. And I'm like, what? I was like, why did they fired him? Apparently, he did something on the air that my boss had told him many times not to do. And they just shit canned him then and there. They were like, go home. You're done. But this is holiday season. It's like right before the holidays. They can him. And I'm like, holy shit. And I knew I was next in line for that job. I knew I was next in line. And I go to work that day and everyone, I'm like, holy, I mean, my stomach is like turning butterflies for 3 weeks. And I was like, holy shit, am I really going to get this fucking job? The job that I had thought, I thought about that job every day for like 7 years. Mm-hmm. And coming to work, my boss is like super rip shit pissed. He's not talking to anybody. He's got his door shut. I do my show that night, get a phone call the next day at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon. They're like, hey, don't come in tonight. What you're going to do is you're going to come in and do afternoons tomorrow. I was like, okay, that's great. So they have somebody fill in for me at night. I come in, I start doing afternoons. It was supposed to be a one-day thing. I was supposed to do like Wednesday, and then they think they were going to have somebody fill in like Thursday, Friday. And then that day, my boss is like, why don't you come back tomorrow and then also do Friday? So now I got the rest of the week. We get to the weekend. He goes, why don't you do all next week? Do the entire weekend. I do the whole week. We get to the weekend. He goes, why don't you come in and do next week as well? And I'm like, fuck, is this guy going to offer me this job?
Yeah.
We get to December 23rd. The station goes dark from December 24th until New Year's. Everybody's got it off. Mandatory, all full-timers got it off. It's about 5 o'clock that day, and I'm like, okay, Wade is leaving until December 2nd. I'm like, if he's going to offer me the job, it's got to be today. Because if he doesn't, it's never going to happen. Dude walks into the studio. It's about 5 o'clock. And he goes, what are you taking off for Christmas? I go, I'm just going to sit around, got the family, got the kiddo on the way, man. Just last one before, we got to start buying kid presents. He's like, yeah. You like afternoons? I go, yeah, I like it. He goes, you want to do it full time? I was like, yeah, I do. And he goes, good. You start December 3rd. Have a good holiday. And he turned around and he walked out. And I laid on the floor of the 93X studios and I fucking cried my eyes out.
That's awesome.
Because I had taken so many shit jobs and so many part-time jobs and moved around the fucking country. I moved to Manchester, New Hampshire. I moved to Springfield, Missouri. I moved to La Crosse, Wisconsin twice. I had been told by every rock station, like KUPD. I flew to Phoenix just to like knock on the guy's door and be like, here's my packet. Can maybe one day hire me? Dude wouldn't even talk to me. Like I had been told no so many times that when I got that job, it blew my fucking mind. That whole week, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, holy shit, I am the afternoon drive guy at 93X. That is like, I was
gonna say that's a big deal.
That's
an
a
afternoon
huge
drive.
deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that is.
People coming home from work.
Yeah. There's only in the existence of that radio station, there has only been like maybe 7 or 8 of us that have done a full-time afternoon drive. And now it's just been the same guy and it's just voice tracked and nobody cares about it anymore. And, they just sink all their money into morning shows and then they just sort of just schedule the day. They don't give a shit about the rest of the day parts. They're basically there just to keep something on if anybody wants to listen to it until people come back to listen to the morning show the next day. And I got there. So December 3rd was my first day doing afternoon drive, or January 3rd. I walked into the studio, I literally put the headphones on, and I thought to myself, this can't be it. I am so not fulfilled. I'm so not anywhere near what I want to do with my life. Like I thought that they were gonna dangle the carrot, and then once I got the carrot, it's like anything in life. You're like, I'm so unhappy. When I get money, I'll be happy. And then I was always like that. And then I sold my first house and they gave me a check bigger than I had ever seen in my life. And I remember driving into the bank going, I am still fucking miserable. Why? I thought I'd be happy. I have money. Now why am I still angry about stuff? And I had that thought, but then that's where I always thought like my life would be sort of over when I got that job. But what I didn't really kind of realize was like, that was my life beginning because that's where now I'm like, I need a new carrot. I need to have a new carrot. And that brought me to acting. It brought me to stand up. It brought me to all of these things that I never would have done on my own had I not worked those. They talk about like a marathon it's a 24 mile jog to a 2.5 mile sprint. And that's sort of what I felt like radio was. Those first 7 years was that 24 miles. All right, man, now is where the race actually starts. And that's kind of what it's been like ever since, And it's been a long, I feel like when I tell people about comedy, I am in the top 3% of all comedians. All comedians on the planet, I am in the top 3%. Now, to get from 0 to the top 3% was not that difficult, to be honest. It wasn't that difficult. The hardest part is going from the top 3% to the top 1%. That's the hardest. There's a million open micers. There's a million features. There's a million hosts. There's so many of them that'll never see the light of day. These guys will never see big stages. In 18 months, I literally went from doing my first open mic to opening for Adam Corolla for 3,000 people. It was that fast. Now, since I've gotten there, very little has gone up since that. But that's the way this business works. It takes such a short amount of time to get to a certain position, and then you plateau and you stay there for a long time because you really got to prove yourself between that top 3 to 1%. And that's where, it takes so much time.
Well, that's where the
energy.
grind comes in.
Yeah.
That's that's where that's where you proved yourself, but then you got to prove to everybody else. Are you here to stay? Or are you doing this for fun? Or that's where you prove your worth almost. And not to correlate too much, we talk about filmmaking a little bit. Like that's the same thing. It's like you show up to school. All right, you're already in the top 10%. You show up to film school. Like you're doing this. Now, did you graduate? Now you're like in the top 5. It's like, and then it's like, are you making money to sustain yourself for a living? That's like top tier. But then to go, I'm going to try to do $100 million films. That's so
Yeah.
I still have that delusion by all means. Like,
Yeah,
it's
of
not saying
course.
it can't happen.
Yeah.
But once you get settled into this business, you're like, okay, which route are you taking? You know,
Yeah.
and I imagine comedians, it's like, you know, I've talked with Ben and you hear about it a lot now because a lot of comedian podcasts are out there. So you hear about that grind where it is like, no, this is 10 years now. You're in that 10-year stretch. Oh, I'm doing well. Yeah, you got about 10 years now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Until you start breaking through into the next mold.
Yeah.
If you break through to the next mold, are you willing to do that time?
Jerry
You know?
Seinfeld says something comedian. He says it to Orny Adams, which I think about this a lot. Where he goes, how long have you been doing comedy? He's like, 7 years, and he's like, great, you're a 7-year-old in comedy.
Yeah.
That's all. That's if you think about it, dude, you're basically a first grader. So keep working. And you're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you really like the thing about it is I'm so glad that because you know the real story of like how I got into it was.
How did you even get? I mean, you went from you had 93X by the way to KS95. Like, how were those transitions? You know, not to skip too much. My wife, because my wife. Listen, she loved you. So,
It was a good time for me to go there because my daughter at the time was about 4, maybe a little less than that, 3 or 4, and I wasn't living that rock lifestyle anymore. And I got really tired of rock radio. I was getting tired of playing the same music all the time. At least with Top 40, they change it. They change the music quite a bit where rock is not as active. And the music was changing. The station had changed. Like we lost some people, and like it just wasn't what it was. So when we got bought by Citadel, or no, Cumulus, I think bought us, and they fired everybody. I was part of this huge firing. It was about 4 years between 93X and KS95
Really?
that I was because I had a baby, and my fiance at the time was going to school. I was the only source of income. So I was literally selling couches at Lovesac in the Mall of America. And people were like coming in and they're like, weren't you the afternoon drive guy at 93X? And I was like, yeah. Now I'm selling couches in a mall, So it was those were the really, really, really hard years.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was so used to, free
You've
concert.
been in the industry too.
Yeah.
Like you were in it. Like you were
absolutely.
afternoon drive guy.
Yeah.
You would, and it's not like you I lost my job. Let me put my resume on LinkedIn and get picked up by another radio station.
Yeah,
like it's not. That's
and I was still I was working part time at radio stations, waiting for things to pop open, but they just weren't because the business had changed so much. It was downside.
That would have been what 2010, 11.
Yeah, so
because
2011,
that's a big leap in technology. And podcasts weren't taking off, but they were
starting. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So Adam Corolla had started his podcast whatever it was, 2011, I think it was. And what's crazy is somebody had suggested it to me. They were like, oh, did you know Adam Carolla's got a podcast? Because I was doing a podcast. I was doing it back when you had to do RSS feeds. You had to do your own coding and stuff to get it up onto Apple Podcasts.
Oh wow, yeah.
And somebody said, Adam Carolla's got a podcast. So I started listening. I was here's how broke I was. I was riding a BMX bike that I got on Craigslist for $20. Now, remind you, I was the afternoon drive guy in one of the biggest markets in America. I was doing a part-time radio job at what was now called K-Twin, but it used to be B96.
Oh, I remember B96.
Yeah, it was a hip-hop station.
Yeah, it was.
They flipped it, and they hired me to do part-time while they were figuring out what they were going to do with the radio station. So I was riding a BMX bike as a 35-year-old man. Riding a BMX bike because we couldn't afford gas because I was the only source of income and I had been unemployed. I was riding that bike to go to B96 and do part-time work and just be on the air part-time, and nobody listened to the radio. It had no ratings whatsoever. So even if I could tell a radio station, hey, give me a listen, I'm on, they were like, what is this thing again that you're on? It used to be a rap station and now it's a weird sort of local. They didn't even know what it was. It was such a terrible idea. And the station's defunct now. It's not even around anymore. And I started listening to the Adam Corolla Show, and I'm riding my bike and I'm listening to it. And then somebody had asked me about 4 months after that show started, they were like, what's the plan? You got a plan? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I think I'm going to work for Adam Corolla. And they were like, oh, the Man Show guy? And I was like, yeah, he's got this podcast. They're like, do you know him? I'm like, no.
No.
They're like, how are you going to work for him? I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I like the show. I'm just going to work for him. So I like start emailing people on the show like, hey man, like, I know you're a producer. I got production skills. I'm a radio guy. Would love to, come out there, work for you, whatever. I never hear anything back. Never, ever. Fast forward to whatever it is, however that long ago that was, 15 years ago, when I proclaimed I will one day work on the Adam Corolla Show. I'm now a weekly news guy on the Adam Corolla Show. I tour with Adam Corolla. I open for Adam Corolla. I help Adam Corolla with marketing materials. I help him with clips. I help him, every now and again. I think he throws me a bone because I have such a hard time writing for other people. I can write for me, but I can't write for other people. But he'll, what do you think about this joke? And I'm like, what planet are you pitching me jokes, man? You're the Man Show guy. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. You tell me what it should be, But yeah, it was when I was in 5th grade, I did stand-up. I love stand-up so much. I loved it so much when I was
in 5th grade.
5th grade.
Yeah.
But in Hibbing, Minnesota, there's no outlet for it.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to do it. So I do I do the 5th grade talent show. I win the talent show, 5th grade. Love stand-up. Nowhere to do it. Don't do stand-up again until about a year after. It was about a year after I got the job at 93X. So it was probably right. Actually, no, it was about 6 months after. It was probably right before because my daughter was born in June. And I think I had started stand-up about a month before that. So I started doing stand-up. Daughter's born. It's good. I kind of have this deal with my girlfriend where I'm like, my fiance, I'm like, hey, I'll be home in the morning. You can go to school. And then when you get back, I'll go to work, do the afternoon show. And then as soon as the afternoon show is done, I'll go and do a spot, and then I'll come back home, and then I'll put the kids to bed, I'll put our daughter to bed, and then you can have the rest of the night to go do whatever. It was perfect, man. We were doing it for whatever, a year. Then one day my daughter gets sick, and daughter has a condition called tracheolaryngeomalacia. What we thought was going to be about a couple week process to figure it out. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take 6 weeks off of comedy, and I'm going to be a dad, get my baby healthy, and I'll come back to stand-up. And then 6 months, what was supposed to be 6 months, turned into 10 years. So now my daughter is fine now, but when she was 12, her mom and I were split. I was single by myself. My daughter was living with me once a week. So the weeks that she wasn't with me, I was like, I had nothing to do. I'm like, man, I got to start figuring out what I have no passion. And then I was working at KS95. I got the job. So I was working radio there. And it was great because, Katy Perry would come to town. We get tickets. Taylor Swift would come to town. We get tickets. It was great.
What years was that?
That was 2015 to 2020 is when I left.
Oh, okay.
So it may have been 2021 is when I left. So I think I was there for a total. I think they figured it out. I was there for 7 years and 2 days.
Yeah.
So it must have been early 2015 to late 2021, something like that. And I get the job, and I start going back doing stand-up, and I'm literally I'm just doing open mics. I meet comedian Adam Ray. I don't know if you know Adam. Adam
sounds familiar.
Adam Ray's the dude who's going around doing Dr. Phil.
Oh yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah.
So
I was gonna say I know the name.
Yeah. So Adam he's a regular on the Adam Corolla Show, and Adam Ray is coming to town, and I hit up Adam and I go, hey man, just to give you a heads up, I'm a fan, and I know you do a lot of podcasting, a lot of video work. If you're ever on the road, I got equipment here in Minnesota. I know you're coming to Acme Comedy Company. I would love to help you out. Send him an email. 10 minutes later, I get an email back. Hey man, can you shoot my shows at Acme this weekend? So I can email him back. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, great. Can you do 2 cameras? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, great, man. All right, we'll see you Thursday at Acme. I was like, sounds good. Got it off the email, went to Best Buy, bought 2 cameras. Literally bought 2 Canon Rs. I spent $5,000 on a Best Buy credit card and was like, just do it.
Let's do it.
If anything, shoot it. If it goes well, keep the cameras. If not, bring them back. You got 30 days, whatever. I then, from that weekend, I shot a bunch of stuff for Adam. I helped him edit some clips. That then turned into me being like his kind of part-time producer for his podcast. I was helping him with social media content. Did that for about a year and a half, and then Adam Corolla comes to town. He's doing Acme, and I'm at the show. I bought tickets to all 4 shows. That's how big of a fan I am of Corolla. Bought tickets to all 4 shows. Standing in line to get into the show, and Adam Ray calls me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm at the Adam Corolla Show. And he's like, oh, dude. He's like, tell Corolla I say hi. And I'm like, oh. He's like, who's there with him? And I'm like, it's him. And, Mike August is here. And, he's got his producer, Chris. And he's like, oh, dude, tell Chris I say what up. I happen to be standing right next to Chris Loxamana. Mm-hmm. I got off the phone with Adam Ray. And I go, hey, Chris. Hey, man, nice to meet you. I'm Rudy. Adam Ray says hi. And he goes, oh, Adam Ray. How do you know Adam Ray? And I go, I work for him. I help him with like his podcast. I do his clips. And Chris goes, wait a minute, you produce About Last Night? And I go, yeah. And he goes, you produce like all of Adam's clips, like his social media clips, like stand-up clips and podcast clips? Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah. And he goes, dude, we were literally getting on the plane and somebody was looking at their phone and said, my God, who's the guy who does Adam Ray's social media? When we get back on Monday, somebody call Adam and see who it is so we can hire him. And I was like, well, get out, dude. I was like, well, that's me. And he's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, seriously. Yeah. So he goes, our social media content gal is coming to town tomorrow. Can you meet her? And I'm like, sure, absolutely. So that night, and in fact, we had talked. He was like, well, let's talk more. And I was like, okay, great. So then after the show, it's the late show. After the show, Chris is busy, and I'm like, man, I don't want to.
It's that weird feeling. Yeah. You're like, you want to talk, but I know you have real shit to do.
Yeah, it feels, and I don't really know. I don't know Chris. I don't have his contact information. So after like an hour of fans coming and meeting Adam and all these people, I'm like, I don't want to. This feels weird. So I get in my truck and I drive away. And I'm driving down. What is that? That 4th Street, the warehouse district, and I get like 3 blocks away from Acme, and I tell myself, dipshit, you have been waiting 14 years for this opportunity. Turn your ass around, go back to Acme, find Chris, don't sell yourself short. This is what you want, go and do it. Turn around, go back to Acme. I'm walking down the stairs. Corolla walks out, and I go, hey, Adam, good show. And he's like, yeah, thanks. Right behind him is Chris Loxamana, and Chris is like, dude, I've been looking all over for you. He's like, our social media gal just happens to be coming to town tomorrow. Yeah. Can you meet her? And I'm like, sure, not a problem, man. Yeah. Absolutely, great. So he goes, she'll call you. She wants you to meet you here at Acme, like, sometime in the afternoon, but she'll call you. I was like, okay. So the next day, me and the family, all the kids, we went to Nickelodeon Universe, Mall of America. While we're there, I get a phone call. It's a 213 area code, LA. And I'm like, oh, this must be the gal, right? So I take my phone, open it up, and I'm like, hello. And on the other end, this girl goes, hi, is this Rudy? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, hey, this is Megan Trainor. I was like, oh, like the All About That Bass gal? And she's like, yeah. I'm on the phone with so-and-so. This is like I can't remember the gal's name. But she said something like, we're looking, your name got brought up to us from this company called Cloud 10, which I was doing some work for. And we're looking for an audio producer for my new podcast, working on it. And I was like, oh, in the meantime, all of a sudden I get another phone call from LA, and I'm like, give me 1 second. I turn on, I'm like, open it up. I'm like, yeah, hello. And this girl's like, hi, my name is Crystal. I work for Adam Corolla. Can we meet? I was like, absolutely, yeah, totally, not a problem, Go back to the Megan Trainor phone call. I'm like, hey, Megan. All of a sudden, the gal's like, Megan left the phone call, but we can still work things out. I'm like, okay, great. How insane is this conversation? And so I get off the phone. I then become the audio production producer for Megan Trainor's All About That Bass, Working on It podcast. I then go to Acme that night. They put me on a 2-week trial with Adam Corolla, the Adam Corolla Show, doing videos for him and helping him out. And they hire me on at the Corolla Show. Now I'm doing Megan Trainor's podcast. I'm working at KS95. I'm doing Adam Corolla. I got a couple other small, I'm doing Adam Ray stuff still. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't even know if I really I don't even think I want radio anymore. I think maybe I'm done. Then COVID happens. Oh, then the company is, and I got vaccinated, but the company was adamant that when I got COVID, that I get tested to come back to work. And I'm like, well, that's not the guidelines. The guidelines are you get COVID, you spend 10 days in quarantine. Once your symptoms are totally gone, totally okay to go back to work because now you're good. And they were like, we still want you to get tested. And I was like, okay, but legally, I don't have to. that turned into a huge argument between me and the co-host, me and my, and I'm like, I'm not going back. Because at the time they were testing it by shoving that goddamn thing up your nose.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to go have them shove that
every day. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to have them shove that thing up my nose anymore. I don't need to do it. Legally, you can't make me do it. That's where...
That was KS95.
That was KS95. And that's where it all started. Because then from there, I started having a huge rift with the people that were on the show. I started having a rift with not necessarily the program director, but like higher ups were like, he's not really a team player. And I'm like, no, I am a team player. I just don't want to do all this shit you guys are making me do. And that's where it kind of started. So when they finally, I had a year left on my contract. And I gave him a 1-year notice because it was a big job. I was on the show, but I also produced. I did a lot of stuff for him. So I'm like, yeah, man, it's time. I'll give you a year. 6 months into a year, and it's awful. I mean, I have no relationship with the people on the show anymore. We all despise each other. And COVID is still happening, so it's like every day you're coming in, you got to wear a mask. It was just like, at some point, I just remember thinking like, you're not going to make it a year. You're not, you have, for your own mental health and just for their well-being. So one of the higher ups, like the highest guy in the company, found out that I had given a year notice and then came down to the program director and was like, you mean to tell me that you have a guy who gave his year notice and it's been 6 months and you still haven't found anybody? Obviously he does not want to be here. Why is he still on the air? And the guy was like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And he's like, we're firing him today. Like he's done. So the higher up calls me into his office and he goes, yeah, I can't even believe this took this long. The day you put in that year notice is when they should have let you go. And I was like, okay, so what are we going to do? He's like, well, we're going to pay you for the rest of your contract. Just go home and every 2 weeks you're going to get a paycheck. And I was like, get the fuck off.
You've been working there for 6 months. You're like, I didn't have to work here.
He was like, what? I was like, that's insane. So now I have 6 months of payments coming in and I have no job. I am at home every day. Now I'm writing like a son of a bitch. I'm like, because now I'm doing stand up. Now I'm working for Adam Corolla. I get about 6 weeks into my severance and somebody from Adam Carolla's team, like one of his managers goes, hey man, Adam Carolla's doing Oklahoma City. Do you want to like come over and do a guest spot? And I was like, yeah. And in my head, I'm like, I don't think you realize that Oklahoma City is not next to Minneapolis. Like, I think it's like a 15-hour drive, dude, But I was like, I just jumped at the opportunity. I was like, let's do it, man. Yeah, I'm in. Yeah. So I flew myself down there, and then I got to the club, and they were like, so you are hosting, right? I'm like, nope. And they're like, well, we don't have a host. Do you want to host? And I was like, let's do it. Yeah. So Corolla didn't even really know me. I then did the show. I opened it. He wasn't even in the building when I opened the show. My first night, I opened the show, bring up the feature. I go back into the green room. Corolla's back there while the feature's on. And he goes, funny. I go, oh, thanks, man. You say that like you had no expectations. And I say, you say that like you're surprised. And he goes, oh, I just expect everybody to suck. And I was like, oh, yeah, I get that, So we do the shows together. And then the next day, the Tim Allen thing happened. I ran into Tim Allen. So Corolla's already like, okay, this guy he's got his shit together. Like he's aware of what's around him, He's funny on stage. I like him. At the end of the weekend,
technical expertise too, by the way.
Yeah, you're right.
Not even to interrupt you, but like it's filmmakers the same way. I mean, Philip, it's like you have the talent and creative, but the technical, that's huge.
That's huge.
You can do jokes, you can do this, but it's like, oh, now I'll do the video, I'll do the audio. I know the nerd stuff that makes the
absolutely
all around.
And that's what I tell every young comic. Like, listen, you have to add value if you really want to get on the road with people, especially nowadays. Because back in the day, if you had a car, that was good enough to get you feature work. Nowadays, with the advent of social media and clips and YouTube, if I have 2 Sony A7 Fords that I bring on the road everywhere I go. And everybody, when I'm not headlining, everywhere I go, I bring them. I shoot people's, if I'm not the headliner, I shoot their set. I give them all the footage. I give them all the audio. It looks great. I'm adding value to them so that the next time they are on the road, they're like, oh, bring that guy who's got all the cameras. We get free clips out of it. I don't have to pay a videographer. Oh, hell yeah, let's do it. So that is what I keep telling, like the reason how I got on with Michael Yo was Kevin Hart. Michael Yo was bringing people on the road with him, and Kevin Hart is talking to Adam or to Michael one day, And he's like, who you got opening for you? He's like, I bring this gal Jill or whatever. And Jill's great. I love Jill. Jill Margulis? I can't remember her last name. But Kevin goes, oh, what else does she do for you? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, you got to bring people that add value. They either write jokes, they record, they do something for you. You know, like you're offering them an opportunity to get into a club they can never get into. You gotta find the right people. Immediately when that happens, Michael calls me and is like, you got cameras? I'm like, yep. He's like, you got an open schedule? I'm like, yep. He's like, pick any date you want. You come on the road with me. And like, that's when it happened. And like, that's where it really started to blow up for me. So now I'm on the road with both Michael Yo and with Adam Corolla, and I'm kind of doing both. And the weeks I'm not opening for those guys, I'm doing headlining stuff. Yeah. And from there, it just snowballed. You know, I never even asked to be on the Adam Corolla Show. They just came to me one day and they're like, hey, you got radio experience, right? I was like, yep. And they're like, great. We need a news guy tomorrow. You around? I'm like, I can be. So now I literally once a week drive from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, do the show for 2 hours, turn my ass right back around and drive right back to Las Vegas. And it is a 9.5 hour round trip. And everyone goes, you are insane. And I'm like, I should be paying them. I should be paying them. The amount of people that have stopped me now, the amount of people that have come up to me and they're like, are you the guy that's on the Adam Corolla Show? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, dude, I'm telling you, it's worth its weight every time I get in that truck at 7 o'clock in the morning to battle LA traffic and then drive my ass right back. I'm so exhausted by the end of the day, but I'm like, what an amazing opportunity I've been given. And every once in a while, when I feel like I've had a good month, I treat myself. I get that $79 Spirit airline and I fly my ass to Burbank and then I fly my ass home and it feels good, you know, but I'm like, I don't know. I like I'm just so fortunate for the experience. You know, it's just been amazing.
That's insane. That's awesome. I mean, I love hearing that because it's the step-by-step that you don't get sometimes when you talk with people like, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's going, you know, but it's like how that all worked out, you know? Yeah. And also too, like, I agree with you like 100% with the parallels, like I said, you act too. And like that, it all kind of works in that, like, not only do you need to know how to do the stand-up, you need to know how, like, you have to add something. Everyone has to do everything. I'm the same thing. I'm podcasting right now, but guess what? I'm editing like, people are like, do you have somebody doing it? It's like, no. Yeah. Like, I know how to edit really well, but it's like you build the pipeline.
Absolutely.
Like, I fly people out. I invite people on. Well, I know how to light. It's like, you got to know how to do everything. Like, and sometimes people ask me like, hey, do you want to shoot this? Or like, sets, I never got into it, but then I've had people ask me, how do I film sets? I was like, oh yeah, I'll tell you how. And then you do what you will with that information. But I 100% agree. You got to add value.
Yeah. Like, speaking of, dude, this place looks so amazing. Can you turn that monitor? Can I see that? Can I see what this looks like?
This is not the best monitor. It's just a reference one.
Oh, wow.
So I go back and forth. So it'll automatically cut to you and whatnot. Yeah. But I just do it so I make sure, basically it's just like, hey, are you out of focus?
Yeah,
or I'm like,
dude.
Or I check like, okay, framing still looks good.
Yep.
Everything's fine. So if you see me, I'm doing like 5 jobs as a
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, it looks so damn good.
Thank you.
And it's funny because we've been working with the Michael Yo Show, the Yo Show at Michael Yo's place, and we have been trying for what feels like ever to be able to dial in the lighting and to be able to It's much. It's so damn
How big's
hard.
your studio? Well, yeah,
it's probably about the
people want to hear. They want to hear about the technical.
Yeah,
what are the lights like?
Yeah, no, it's about this size. Yeah.
This stuff. Again, how much do you want to put in? Like when I did this, I'm like, it has to be. The pipeline. I always say it's the pipeline. It has to be not convenient, but it is convenience and ease.
Yeah.
But I know how enough to do it. So I spent the money on the tube lights. You don't have to go with it, but I'm like, well, again, nerd stuff. But it's like, hey, the regular lights. Guess how big those matte boxes get? They get big. Do you want a giant matte box? So it's kind of turns into like, okay, we got a little MX right there, or MC. I'm going to switch it to an MX soon. Because the MX connects a little bit better, does a little bit better lighting, because that's about 7-8 years old.
Yeah. So what's the difference between an MC and an MX?
MX is a little bit bigger, has a little more output.
Okay.
Color range is a little bit better, and the Bluetooth connection is better.
Oh, okay.
That Bluetooth connects well. These are all Bluetooth connected, but they're always connected, so these lights never move.
Wow.
So, and then I have Govee lights behind you. I'm going to upgrade those, the ones behind me, and then and so I can hop on my app right now. And so like when you're coming over, I'm like, hey, I'm setting up. All I do is turn this on, those on, and I have all the settings dialed in. And then like it depends. Like, hey, if you're super pale, I'll bring the lights down. If you're black like Ben, then crank them up. Or like like that's it. That's all I got to do. And and then my side's typically good to go. I focus on you, so that's why I have a 56 millimeter 1.2 as a close up and a 35 mil 1.8. Wow. And these are ZVE. Again, if you know what you're doing, this is just a crop sensor. It's not like, A7 IV, full frame sensor, phenomenal camera. But it was like, because I was, how much are you like money spending into it? And I'm like, okay, well, if I get more sponsors, maybe I'll upgrade to full frame sensors. But I was like, I know enough to where I can make all this look good.
Yeah. Dude, when's the next time you're coming to Vegas?
Yeah, right. I'll come to Vegas.
You should come to Vegas. Come to Vegas. Help us set up that room because I'm telling you, we have been trying like madmen to be able to figure it out. And we'll set it up because Michael's all about, he's like you. He's like, just find me the best and I don't care what it costs. Just find me the best.
If you guys have that option, I mean, it really is, it's streamlined. And like this too, like you're asking me about the Rodecaster video. It is a godsend. Like,
the best.
And you don't need 4K. That's why I don't, that's just a clean output, but you can just, the YouTube algorithm, as long as it's 4K, it does help push 4K content more because they want that.
Sure.
All you got to do is in Adobe Premiere is just
output it to 4K.
Output it to 4K. And it does 4K. So then YouTube reads it as 4K.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's the pipeline. Like it's just the pipeline, man. I literally unplug this. When we're done, I'll unplug the hard drive. I go to my computer. I take the raw audio and then I sync it with, the video audio because it puts it all together for you. And then I make sure it's all synced and then I sync the two together. It takes me about 20, 30 minutes and then I do Autopod, cuts it. The only thing I have to do really manually is I take that close-up angle and I line it up and then I just randomly cut.
Oh, sure.
That's it. So that's the only thing. It takes me like 15 minutes to just like cut. And it's not emotional pivot points. It's literally just like, okay, this looks good. This is long enough. I'll do through here. That's it. And I just go through and I render it out. And then I do 1080p for Spotify, 4K for YouTube. And then sometimes I'm doing the Opus clips. It's kind of working. Yeah,
I've done it before too. It's fine.
Yeah, it's more about blasting content on YouTube Shorts than it is about. So you won't ever see Opus clips on my Instagram I put effort into those clips. Whereas Opus clips is almost like a shotgun effect where like I can do 100 clips in like a day.
Wow.
And then, or you know what I mean? Like maybe not 100, but like 30 in a day.
Sure.
And then I do that over a week. And then I can schedule 2 a day for the next month and a half.
Oh, wow.
Say what you will with it. They get like 500 views, but guess what? It just keeps pumping my channel into the algorithm. Are they the greatest? No. But then the regular clips, then I'll put those on socials instead and I'll share like with you or share with whoever. They're more quality based.
Sure.
But there's only like 5 to 6 of those I do. Yeah. I used to do 10, but now I'm full-time job and I can't.
That's my bandwidth is
I
agree.
Dude, the fact that like we're getting this off, I can get some clips off and it's like,
it's a lot.
That's a big win. It's a big win.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, this place looks great. Man.
Yeah, and I was going to upgrade this monitor because it's a high contrast situation. Yep. I'm sure everybody listening to this is like, I'm loving this content. But like, it's a little more darker than it's going to be. Yeah. So when you see it, it'll be lighter. And it's just, in fact, I want to get a different one. But yeah, dude, this thing though, I don't know how you guys are running. Everyone was running Roadcasters with black. Well, you had that too when I did your show. Yeah. And you had the Blackmagic Pocket, and everyone did that for years. And then Rode came out with this, and I was starting my podcast in December. They came out with this in July. And I was like, no way. It's like one of those like timing things. It's like, because I had a podcast called the Nagelbear Podcast. You can look it up. Okay. And there's 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And
Nagelbear.
And it was rough. You talk about pre-era syncing. I was doing it to a Zoom microphone. Yeah. So I'd manually plug that in. 2 different cameras. So an Ursa G2 running 24 frames, a super crappy Olympus for the second angle. Yep. Dude, the audio drift, and I would have to manually cut back and forth between me and like Blake and Chuck.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Horrific.
Oh, I bet.
It took me like a whole day to edit one episode, and it was bonkers terrible. Man, it was so bad.
Yeah. I use this plugin called AutoCut.
Yeah, that's what I use now.
Yeah,
I use AutoCut. I've been using AutoCut for like 2-3 years now.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great. The best. In fact, I did the Terminal List, with Chris Pratt. They did a podcast, and Ironclad Media ran that podcast. It was only 10 episodes, so it was like the producers talking.
Okay.
Yeah. They're like, hey, can you edit that for us? And it was before Autopod came out. And I was like, cool. And it was kind of like that. I'm sure everything else, like there was a time frame, like when you were starting, the value of you editing was very big.
Oh yeah.
Not saying that there's not value in it now, but there's a lot of tools that can be used that bring it down.
Yeah.
So instead of what I'm sure you charged back then isn't as high as it used to be now.
Yeah.
You know,
The one thing I've noticed about like those Opus clips and stuff is me doing it manually, especially when I cut stand-up clips, it turns out so much better when I do it myself.
Same.
Yeah.
Even with
way better.
the stories. And that's more for like, it's just filling. It's like filling the void.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't have enough clips for till my next episode. Let's create 30 of them.
Yeah.
Hit 2 of them a day.
Yep.
And it's just really about punching it into the YouTube algorithm.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even put them on Instagram or that's my opinion. You're right. Putting the quality. I'd rather have 4 or 5 quality, even 2 or 3 on Instagram or before I'd ever put Opus clips. Because it's like, it starts like halfway through a story. And
Yeah,
it
I know.
doesn't, And then
yeah.
like also like the taglines, they're cheesy, but they kind of work.
Sure.
Because they're like, what's popular? What's dramatic?
Yeah.
And you plug it in and I'm like, it kind of works. You know, I get like 500 views per upload. So you're like, well, all right. Well, for the shorts, you're like, well, actually, 500 twice a day times 30 days.
Yeah.
You'll
It
get
adds up, man.
It
It adds
adds up. It's a few change. It keeps you in the algorithm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I say that and I ran out here, so I got to redo that. I take like 2 days and I do it and I front load for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that ran out. So I'm like,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I got to do that. But no, I agree, man. Like this setup, but adding value to it though, like especially back then when you were talking about like was it 2015, 16 era, like, dude, that was big.
Huge.
It's insane.
Huge,
like you
man.
were talking
Huge.
about real. I mean, like to get in on those early days, even podcasting, dude. And by the way, if you want to start a podcast, start the podcast and do it. Like do the podcast.
There's no good time to do it. Just do it,
the better time of the day to start.
Absolutely.
Do you have to be a little more calculated? Yeah. How much effort you're going to put in? Probably a lot more.
Yeah.
Back then, like 10, 15 years ago when you just start it and you're like, it starts taking off because that was a much smaller community. Now I feel like if you're coming into it, you better come into it with a plan, opposed to just I'm just going to do it off the cuff. I'm like, well, it's going to be pretty rough, and then you're going to get really, is this what you really want to do? Or is this something, like a hobby or, I'm sure. Cause you had a podcast for a while, right? I mean,
Yeah. That was before I was doing everything for everybody else.
Yeah.
And then at some point I was like, I was only basically doing it to buy time.
Yeah.
I was like, I got nothing to do. I'll just do this for a little while, And I've thought about, doing it again, but I'm like, man,
it's tough though.
I like being a comic. I like writing jokes. I just I don't need, I'd rather do everybody else's podcast, I mean, if I had a setup like this, maybe. Like it looks great. Probably.
Yeah.
But
well, it's tough though too, because I think I agree with you though. Like you're all doing everything. Like you don't need a podcast. I kind of think that's like sometimes comics they're like, yeah, we love that comic, and they have a you find out they have one, and they're kind of like, do you need one? There's some some bigger names out there, but it's like, do you need what?
you're good.
You're good.
You do what you do. Yeah, you don't need it.
Go on theirs.
Yeah.
That's how people are finding. I mean, like, I'm not going to someone's podcast because I'm like, oh, this guy was on this. Like, oh, dude, that's great. Like, cool. I'll go listen to your stand up or whatever, So it's kind of like you're back and I don't say back and forth on it, but yeah, I agree with you, because when I started mine, it's like, all right, another veteran coming into the Brovet community, like what's my angle, kind of deal. Like, but even Amanda was like, how long are you going to go with this? I was like, 5 years. I was like, we're committing for 5 years.
Absolutely.
And she's like, oh, I was like, yes. I was like, that's why it's every 2 weeks and the guests come in. Because I'll do video if I need to. One guy, he lived in Italy and he doesn't want to show his face because he's still active duty officer. So I was like, oh, cool, man. So, but it was more, he does Tales from the Grid Square, which is all like paranormal, UFO type stuff, but veterans having, and active duty military having experiences from that. And so he writes he has a really awesome Instagram page, and then he has 3 books. So that was one too. They're Tales from the Grid Square. Dude. Awesome. And they're just guys that write, like myself, that write in like, yeah, I saw a UFO or I encountered this ghost on this base, and that's it. It's just like 2 paragraphs. That's it. So me and him just talking, whatever. But he's still active duty, so and he's in Italy. Yeah. So but I told him, I was like, hey, you want to fly to Italy sometime? And we'll do a podcast with Nick Horton.
Talking about people who have earned their right to not be interrupted. You have earned the right to not be interrupted, my friend.
Dude, your story, I mean, it's amazing. So what is kind of what you're doing? I mean, you're just crushing comedy.
Well,
like I
thanks.
said, you're doing 2% to that 1%
Yeah,
now.
getting to that.
What's that journey like, bro? You
It's
know?
hard. Yeah, it's difficult. It's hard, and especially hard when your 17-year-old daughter is living halfway across the country from you. That makes it the most difficult part.
I'm a dad too. So how is being a dad and being
our relationship was strained about a year ago. It was tough, but we kind of got past it.
Yeah.
She kind of got past it because she needed a car. I was like, you can't be asking for cars to people that you're screaming at all the time. So you got to figure that one out, sweetheart.
How does that, be completely honest, how does that feel? Because I have like my daughter, and I'm like, you say you're snuggling with your kid, you're on the couch, and it's just like, it's going to be years. I know I'm going to encounter that, where it's like they hate you or whatever, but you're just like, I love you so much. I'm yelling at you too, but I love you so much. You know, like I know you're a teenager. I'm clearly not there yet. My daughter's 4, but I'm like, there's going to be some tough years.
There's so many days. It's so hard some days, but you kind of figure out that, like maybe I think for me it's happened in the last probably 6 months where I'm now viewing my daughter as an adult.
Yeah,
instead of a child.
Yeah.
And I have adult conversations with her, and I have, I've never been a big stickler about words. You want to swear, whatever. It's just a word. It can't hurt you. Whatever. I don't care. But the thing about my daughter is my daughter does not suffer fools. She's incredibly cynical, which I love about her. But she's definitely like the mom of her friends. They went to prom and all of her friends are getting shit-faced. And she was like, okay, when you dum-dums are done drinking, I'm going to be out in the car waiting because you guys are all acting like idiots. So since I have to drive you morons, I'm going to go sit outside and read my book. You guys enjoy what you're doing. And then she just went and sat in the parking lot or in the driveway of this party for like 2 hours and just waited for her friends to finish up doing whatever they were doing to drive them back to the house. She's not a drinker. She's pretty like self-motivated. But we had a situation that happened with her car that when I moved to Las Vegas, my daughter moved in with my sister and my brother-in-law. Nothing wrong with my daughter's mom. Daughter's mom is great. Daughter's mom lives in an apartment kind of in the city. My daughter's like, okay, I've been living in a house with dad for the last 4 years. Kind of want to be in the burbs, like they got a good life out here. Plus my sister and brother-in-law have my niece, and she's an only child. So my daughter moving in was kind of like a big sister, little sister kind of thing. So it was kind of helped them out as well. Helps her out with like the driving. My daughter's very proactive about it. So she helps.
Super responsible about that.
Yeah, super responsible. Yeah. So when I moved, they were really on my ass about getting her a vehicle. And I said, sure, but we got to remember that she is a 16-year-old girl who, they were taking her to look at cars. They were looking at like $30,000 cars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Where's that $500 Toyota Camry?
Yeah, man.
2001.
Yeah. First vehicle you guys ever bought me was a Toyota Corolla, and it was so rusted out you could see the highway through the floorboards when you drove it. And, my family's like, she needs if she breaks down on the highway, we don't want to have to be the one, like, you need to, if you're the one who decided to move, you're the one who, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Give me the guilt trip.
Yeah. So they find this $13,000 2018 Ford Focus, I think it was. And the day we bought that car, there was a part of me that's like, I'm going to kick myself in the ass. There's something about this vehicle that I don't like. Fast forward 11 months. This was a month ago. Daughter calls me. Car needs a new transmission, $7,000. Oh, God. And I'm like, you have got to be shitting me.
Yeah, you might as well buy a whole new car at that point.
So I was so rip shit mad because I was like, dude, I told my family we should not buy this car. And I felt like they forced me into buying it, So I come home and I'm like, we got to figure out what we're going to do. We're going to replace this transmission. I don't know. I'm on the way here and I'm like, I'm flying back to Minnesota to help deal with her car. And part of me just goes, oh, just buy her a goddamn brand new car. What's the difference? Dude, you've done well. You have some money. Do you want to spend that kind of money? No, you don't want to spend it, but she's your daughter. Just buy her a goddamn car. So I land in Minnesota. I go to the house. I go, what kind of car you want? And she's like, I want a Mazda CX-5. I was like, get in the goddamn car.
Is that like a semi-SUV or whatever?
Yeah.
Like a small SUV.
Small SUV, midsize. I go, get in the car. We drive over to, whatever. We went to Luther, think is what it was. Luther, maybe? I can't remember. But anyway, we go there. I was like, let's take a look at a Mazda CX-5. And my daughter the whole time was like, what? Like, is he being serious right now?
Yeah.
So we take it for a test drive. And I'm like, you like it? She's like, love it. I was like, do it.
Yeah.
She's like, shut up.
Yeah.
I was like, let's just do it. Fine. Car's got 300 miles on it, you know? But I pulled the trigger and just, I was like, you know what? She's graduating from high school. So my payment to the Academy of Holy Angels is going away soon. So whatever money I have going into that, I'll just go over to her car now, and I'll still be saving hundreds of dollars.
It's probably cheaper.
It's way cheaper to get her a car than it is the goddamn tuition.
Angels,
yeah. So I'll still be saving money. But yeah, so I just I bought my daughter a 2025 Mazda CX-5, and I think ever since that day, and I know like kids are transactional and it's not all about what you buy them, but I think ever since that day, my daughter was really feeling left out and abandoned kind of when I moved. And I didn't think she'd realize how much around I am because my dad split when I was a kid. So even though I'm in Vegas, I'm home constantly. Constantly. I'm home like once every 3 weeks. And on the fun trips like Hawaii, we did shows at the Blue Note in Honolulu. My daughter came with me. We spent 4 extra days in Hawaii. I do the Desert Ridge Improv. They put us up at the Scottsdale Princess. It's an $800 a night hotel. We spend 3 nights there. My daughter comes to that show. Yeah. We go to Washington, D.C. We get put up at the Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, wow. She's
coming to that show. She's coming to these things that she was like, okay, I got a brand new car. I was pissed when my dad sold our house, but now I got a brand new car and I get to travel. And she's meeting like all these like celebrity people. Like they love her.
Yeah. I'm sitting here and be like, hey man, I want to meet Adam Corolla. Or Adam Ray. I'm like, I've seen Adam Ray a lot lately.
And they all love her. Like Jonathan Kite from Two Broke Girls is one of my best friends. And I go on the road with him. Yeah. And he whenever my daughter comes to Los Angeles, he's like, because he knows my daughter's a big foodie. He's like, I'm taking her to this restaurant.
That's
blah blah
awesome.
blah. She rolls like Corolla's girlfriend sends her like Coach purses. She's like, I just bought an extra one. I don't need it. Whatever. Sends her a $400 purse. She's like, this is insane. Like,
that's awesome.
We go to Malibu. We stay at a beach house on the beach. Like I don't, luckily I don't have to like, I'm not giving her this lifestyle and her, she's not like a bratty kid about it. I'm giving her this lifestyle and I don't think she'd really care if we're staying at the Fairmont Princess or if we're staying at a Super 8. I think she just likes to be involved and likes to be a part of it. We go, Michael Yo hosted the Oscars this year for KTLA and then got this like huge gift bag. Gift bag was worth like, $10,000, just filled with all these insane products that are super expensive. And my daughter was in Las Vegas that week. So when Michael came back, his wife like looked at the bag and she was like, I got most of this stuff anyways. Kinley, do you want this? And like gave her like literally like a gift bag from the Oscars that's worth like $10,000, just filled with like lipstick and eyeliner and lotions and all this shit. And I was like, what a cool, fun life you get to lead at 17. Like I was listening to Larry Miller one day, who I just love. And that's the other thing too about this job is all the amount of traveling I'm doing. Like, I was in Tacoma and I was on the phone with my mom. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, and I turned the corner and there's the high school from 10 Things I Hate About You. And I'm like, get the fuck out. I was like, Mom, I got to call you back. So I go down onto the football field from 10 Things, and I'm calling my girlfriend. I'm like, you are never going to believe where I am. I'm at the high school of 10 Things I Hate About You. And she's like, the one where Letters to Cleo played on the, I was like, yes, that one. So like, I'm there. And then like, I go to see the house where they shot it. And like, Larry Miller is the dad. And I'm like, that's the porch Larry Miller stood on when he did this, like the whole monologue and all this shit. And like, I'm watching it. And I was listening to Larry Miller one day. He was doing a podcast before he got sick. And he was talking about, isn't it lovely? What a great thing to be able to cook people you love breakfast. That's a great feeling. They wake up in the morning, they're hungry, you make it for them. What an amazing thing that is. And I was like, that's an insane thought, Larry. Like, who gives a shit? It's just lunch or dinner or breakfast. Who cares about it? Giving my daughter that car and giving her this life is me going, I totally understand what he means now. I get it. Like, this is so much fun. Yes, there are times where I go on the road and I, bringing her to Hawaii, I lost my ass on that trip. Trust me. But hey, man, most of it I get to write off because it was a work trip. Good chunk of it. We get an amazing experience, and it never would have happened if I wasn't doing this job. Yeah. So I'm totally fine with it. And eventually, it's not going to be there anymore. She's not going to be 17 anymore. She's going to be a woman with her own family and her own kids. And I'm going to be going, cats in the cradle, man. I wish I had those moments back. But I'm so glad that I'm doing it. And, you know, it is hard. So when I don't see her for a month or 6 weeks, but then she comes on that one road trip or she comes to that gig and, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, like, dude, we're in Florida. Guy's got a swamp boat. You want to go check out some gators? She's like, let's do it. You're like, well, then we drive down to the Everglades. We get on a swamp boat. Guy takes us out. We see a bunch of alligators. I'm like, what a fun trip this was. Like, how amazing is this? And I'm so fortunate and I feel so glad that I'm able to give this experience to her. Because, like, you know, I didn't travel for the first time. I didn't travel until it was, let's see. So 9/11 happened. 2 days later, I turned 21. 2 weeks after that, I flew for the first time ever in my life. I was 21. My daughter was 8. She was getting on a plane. We were going to Florida. And she goes, do you think it's weird that I'm 8 years old and I've still never been on an airplane? And I was like, I didn't travel until I've never been on a plane until I was 21. So yes, no, I think it's actually weird that you were on a plane.
It's weird that you're here right now.
You're right now, you know? We're flying back from Hawaii. We got upgraded to Comfort, Delta Comfort. And I was like, this is the greatest day of my life. And then they sit me next to like these 2 like 4-year-old kids. And I was like, why are you here? Go back there to coach. You should not be up here. These are the comfy seats, man. Get out. I see, you know, I travel sometimes. I see, you know, 9-year-olds in first class. I was like, get out of here.
That was my parents, the first time they'd gone to Europe was right before we had done your podcast. And I was heading to Ireland like 2 days later.
Yeah.
So my parents were going to Ireland and that was the first time they've I mean, they went to Mexico, but it's like that first big trip outside ever. Passport, going to Europe, and my daughter is 11 months old, and she has her own passport, and she doesn't even going to remember it. She'd been to Ireland before she was 1. It took my parents like 67 years to get to Europe. You know,
it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's just a wild. You know, and then she went to Puerto Rico after that, and then she went to Mexico after that. She's got a passport with like 4 or 5 in Scotland, and where are we going next? Blanking. We got it. Carnival Cruise in February.
Oh wow!
So she's getting her stuff stamped again,
Crazy,
and you're just like,
man.
and then we have to get a new. I'm like, oh my god, like and she won't remember. Well, she'll start remembering now. I think now she might remember Scotland. She's
about 4.5, right?
4.5, yeah. And we were in Scotland in May, which was her birthday. So it was like we actually had her 4th birthday in a little like Airbnb in Scotland. We had, like,
wow,
you know,
that's
like
great.
Got her like a little photo. It said like, you get a bike when you get back, you know, or whatever. Cause we're trying to get her on a bike. But yeah, it's crazy because it's that whole. But like I said though, like your daughter like appreciate it. Like you're not Michael Yo giving her this stuff all the time.
No.
It's like, I got this because someone was like, hey, do you want, that's pretty, it's like the scenario that you're in. You're like, it sounds like she's a pretty appreciative of it. Like, oh, sweet. Like, I don't expect this all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like really cool. One time they gave me this $10,000 grab bag. It was wild. Like, you know, like you have an appreciative for it because that just doesn't happen
all the time.
Yeah,
and her friends don't get, and then her obviously the girls that she goes to high school with, their families are much more affluent than we will ever be. But I think she's experiencing way more than the people she goes to high school with, which is, I think, long term, much better.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, especially now with social media, people are like, yeah, my dad works with Adam Corolla. I remember I had one friend, her dad was like kind of a filmmaker, but he was like a director and he like directed some stuff. Very local, not even TV station. It was like whatever for a media company. I was like, it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
you know what I
right?
mean?
Yeah,
Let alone now, granted, I'm sure social media has jaded people, but you know, it's like, I don't know her name, but like, oh yeah, he works with Adam Corolla, and you know, or whatever, and or oh yeah, he's doing this or doing that, and it's like you get to hang out with those people. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like you know, or like Adam Ray. Even I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
like
Adam Ray. Adam Ray came to our house for a barbecue once, and my daughter was like on the phone with her friend. She's like, "You're never gonna believe who's at my house right now."
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So it's fun. It's a good life. You know, it's fun. Yeah,
it's cool too because I think social media definitely it's kind of crazy because you think about it like. I run into it all the time, especially when people have bigger followings. And it's a kind of a weird thing because, again, this kind of goes back to like, not something that's earned. I wouldn't say that's not earned, but it is that weird sphere. Like if you were a celebrity in early 2000s, 90s, you kind of earned that.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
Oh, yeah.
Not saying that you're not, you know, but it is weird to be like, but social media celebrities, quote unquote, it's because I'll run into guys like, oh, you know him? I was like, yeah, I hung out with him the other day. And they're like, oh yeah. I was like, dude, they're normal people. And by the way, just because they have 100,000 followers, that doesn't translate into anything financial.
Oh, dude, yes.
Nothing financial comes from this. Like, in fact, I'm not saying I'm doing better, but I'm like, I know a lot of those people not doing so hot.
No,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
dude, it's so
not
funny.
doing so hot. You know, like you can't compare yourself, but it's in that weird, not say weird, but you know what I'm saying? But even though, like, I know Adam is very successful. You're very successful. Tony O, right? Is very successful. You know, obviously Adam Corolla, very successful.
Yeah.
You know, well, he's an old school. Like, I feel he's like,
forever.
he's man show old school. Like, I know
Yeah.
Adam Corolla from like, when I was a kid, you
dude,
know?
it's so funny you say that, man, because I brought his name up earlier, but Orny Adams, you know who that is at all?
No, I don't
So
know.
Orny's a comic, been around for a long time. How he sort of got his claim to fame was he was featured in a documentary with Jerry Seinfeld called Comedian. So it's just Seinfeld, the show is over, and now Seinfeld is trying to go back to stand-up. So they document him basically starting from day one, writing new material, and following him all the way up until when he is selling out a theater, and how long it takes, and like the progression of the jokes and all that. But simultaneously, while they're following Jerry, they're also following another comic who is like on the verge of breaking. You know, he's doing JFL, he's doing Just for Laughs, he's doing all these things. He's got a manager, he's meeting all these people, and he's just miserable, and he's just like, you know, he's so angry about things. But I was opening for Orny in Las Vegas, and Vegas is hurting right now. Vegas is
I've heard. Yeah, everything's way too expensive. I've heard about everything.
Yeah, it's way too expensive, and especially this summer was stupidly hot. F1 right now, everybody's realizing that F1's a pain in the ass. Locals hate it. You know, I get that it's a big money generator for people, but this was the first year where like it was very difficult because I live next to the Strip. It was very difficult for people to get around. So, but Vegas is hurting, and I'm opening for Orny. And we're in the green room, and the host comes in, and she goes, hey, you know, what do you guys want for credits or anything? And I go, just say, you know, you've heard him on the Adam Corolla Show. And Orny goes, oh, that's it? That's all you got? The Adam Corolla Show? What are you, 50? The Adam Corolla Show. When I was your age, I had Netflix, I had Hulu, I was on Teen Wolf. And I go, yeah, Orny, it translates by the 19 people in the audience tonight. And he's like, touche, I get it. Yeah, touche. And I was like, yeah. But you're right, man. Like
Teen Wolf. I remember that on MTV.
Yeah, Teen Wolf on MTV. He was the gym coach.
Didn't even watch it, but I remember it.
He was the gym coach. Yeah.
Didn't watch
you're right.
it,
Yeah, you know, and like, you know, social media, I think that real comics are upset with a lot of the social media people that are coming to comedy clubs. But hey, man, like they're selling them out. Yeah. And, you know, I get why clubs are, there's real clubs that would never do it. Acme would never hire a social media kid. You know, Comedy Works, Denver Comedy Works, they would, they do in the South location, but the downtown location, dude, you got to be a comic. You got to be a good comic. You have to be a stand-up. Just because you have 2 million followers, there's a kid I opened for in Minneapolis at House of Comedy. Came and did the show. I'd been on the road all week. Came and did the Thursday night show. Sold out. 5 shows. Sold out. I'd never even heard of this kid. Come and do the show. I tell him, I'm like, hey, man, I'm super tired. I'm going to do my set. I'll watch a couple minutes of yours. I'm going to bounce. But tomorrow night we'll hang. He's like, yeah, no problem, man. Do the show. Watch a couple minutes of his set. I leave. Come back the next night. Manager goes, hey, man, can you do an extra 20 tonight? I was like, you want me to do an extra 20 on top of the 20 I'm already, so I'm doing 40 minutes for
that's like a whole special.
That's almost a headliner set. I was like, dude, plus we have a host. You have a host who's already doing 10. I'm doing 20. And he goes, dude, that kid got on stage last night. We're supposed to do 45, did about 22 minutes, then did a Q&A for 6 minutes, and then got off the stage. And I was like, what? The kid but he sold out 5 shows, so that's why they booked him. All of his fans came. They realized he sucks at comedy. They've never come back. But they have no intentions on coming back. They just need to come and sell out those 5 shows, make a couple bags of money, get the hell out of there. Now, I don't know if this kid's gone on and done well, if he's still doing stand-up at all, whatever. But I had 5 sold-out shows, and I made money doing merch. So, hey, man, great. Whatever. I don't give a shit. It's not going to deter me or... I'm not a better or worse comic because of it. But I get why, you know, people are jaded about it. I get why they're mad about social media. But, you know, I think the thing about it is we as comics should probably look at it and go, okay, even though we didn't start in social media, we started in stand-up, we're already ahead of the game because what these kids are doing, they're starting in social media, they're getting followings, they're coming to comedy clubs, they're realizing that they suck at comedy, and then they don't come back. Now, if we do 10 years of stand-up, we get good at stand-up, let's figure out social media, then we can build that. So when we do come to people's towns and they like us from our social media followings, now they're going to love us as stand-ups because we already built that muscle and we already got that technique down. But most people, comics, just get pissed off and jaded that they're not big on social media. And I'm like, well, how do you think you got big in stand-up? How do you think you got good at stand-up? By relentlessly working your ass off. That's all these kids are doing.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing is talking about putting out 30 clips and front loading it. They're just figuring out ways to be able to build that audience. Why can't you do the same?
Yeah.
Figure it out. Like that's your problem. That's nobody else's problem, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I talked with Ben about that, Katzner.
Yeah.
You know, and he was talking about just how you do, you know, they're doing their podcast, doing clips, you know, and he's run into that too. It's like, well, this guy has a bunch of, you know, he's kind of run into the clubs where they're like, what's your following?
Yeah.
And he's like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But so it's like that weird fight. And I work in social media and media, or I always hate that, media and entertainment, but we deal with, you know, what is your worth or what do you bring as a influencer? And now you're working with companies that are kind of more aware.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you like, I don't even say, well, I don't know what the word, because there's a buddy of mine, he's like, they hate influencers, but they were trying to get into the social media space. So you're trying to find this weird, because I was looking for sponsors for the podcast, and he was going to suggest me because they're a tactical company, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not an influencer. I don't get on, I don't do any of it. I have a show in my podcast. And I like calling it a show too, by the way. Like it's great. It's a podcast, but I was like, you know, it's a show. Like it's my show.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the audience that I have. I don't pursue. I don't do selfies. I don't, you know, or, you know, like because there's guys that I know that are phenomenal at that are like, they can like, hold on a second. They throw on the cell phone and they turn it on for 20 seconds and they're like, okay, come. Sounds good. What's going on? You want to have some pizza? Like, yeah. It's like this weird bipolar.
Yeah.
And then they post it and it gets 1 million views and it's just, yeah, I agree. And it is kind of what you said though. It's very much like, yeah, this kid had a following, but he sold out.
Yeah.
So they're probably more like, awesome.
Yeah.
You know, let's get that bank.
Yeah.
You know,
I
feel like
yeah.
some, maybe, I don't know, managers may or may not be savvy onto that sometimes, but it's like, oh yeah, dude. Like, dude, let's just get this quick bank, sell out 5 shows. This kid will never come back.
Yeah,
you know, or whatever.
Well, now what they started doing is because they realize that they suck at stand up and the clubs don't want that because they have to get repeat business.
Yeah.
Now they just started just doing theaters. And they go, you're just going to go out and do 10 minutes of stand up and
At
then
a theater.
And at a theater, and then we're going to bring local guests on. We're going to bring somebody who's like that is a part of the podcast world that loves you, and you guys will sit and do a side-by-side Q&A. Yeah. So it's not like, they're still selling, but they're not doing stand-up because they just realize it's
I feel
too
like
hard.
that might have gone to the wayside because that's a great way to do it for those influencers.
Yeah, because now you're in front of a theater of people who want to see you.
You saying, like us going back and forth, be like, yeah, I'm not a comedian, but I'll say funny stuff with you. And I think that is a very, I think people are starting to find the difference in that. Like, I've written comedy before, or not stand-up, but comedic sketches. People have laughed at them, but I'm not a comedian.
Sure.
Like, my wife, I'd like to make people laugh when we're just sitting at a bar, family meetings, you know, and my wife was like, you ever thought about doing stand-up? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, that's a terrible idea. I'm already trying to be a filmmaker. You trying to like really bury me? Like, you know, like, and so
win the lottery twice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was like, no, that's not my lane, you know, but it's like, but if you're, I feel like sometimes, like you said, they're coming in to do some sort of comedy set. It's like, you know, it's like, I feel like, and those influencers, if you're listening, do what you do, but come in like, you know, it'd be great. Sell out a theater, talk for 10 minutes, or, you know, you're seeing it with podcasts. They like, I got a buddy they're murdering their podcast. They go on tour with like 5-6 podcast guests and they sit and they sell theaters out and they just do a show. And they murder, and they're selling out, not arenas by any means, but theaters. You know.
Yeah, well, that's why I like the guys from Kill Tony.
They sell it.
There's 7 guys. Everybody goes out, does 10 minutes. There you go. There's your 90-minute set. You know what I mean? Like if you have maybe a couple does, they do 15 or 20. Because like I went to see a Kill Tony guy. My girlfriend and I went, and 10 minutes in, my girlfriend goes, "I think I hate this guy," and I was like, "I think I hate him too." And then 5 minutes later, we walked out. And then we went in the lobby and we sat and we had a couple drinks and we just watched people just file out one after another because they were like, this guy's
At Kill
awful.
Tony
No,
or at the comedy show from Kill Tony?
yeah, so the guy came to town. Yeah, William Montgomery.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, red-haired guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of bald?
Yeah,
Right?
kind of bald.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
he had you say a crash out the other day or
Oh
something?
yeah, I saw you open for Aziz and like they
Something,
they
yeah.
bombed and they people booed him off the stage.
Yeah. Great. It's social media drama.
Yeah. No, and everybody who I know who knows the guy goes, oh, he's a total sweetheart. I was like, yep, and he's dog shit at comedy. You both can be true.
Yeah.
In fact, most people are very nice, are shitty at comedy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's what I've heard with the comedy drama. Ben was telling me about that, both on the podcast and then a little bit after too. He was like, yeah, the Kill Tony stuff is a little weird because it's like this weird, the new gate, they kind of call it, where it's like, if you do well on Kill Tony, then you can go around the country and be like, I was on Kill Tony. But then a lot of people are like, yeah, they're not that good though. So it's like this weird, like, you get this golden ticket. Or I've only listened to like one or two shows. Like I see the clips and then that's about as far as I go. But then people are like, oh, he was on Kill Tony. Let's go see him. And then they end up being terrible. And so he's like, it's this weird, but it's like the biggest comedy show that there is right now. Yeah. So it's like if you are coming from that and they're like, people are like, oh, they did great on Kill Tony or it was a fun set. Yeah. And then they go see you like, oh, like I've heard that's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's becoming like a trend. People are starting to realize a little bit.
There was somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they got SNL like 2 years ago.
Oh, Mackey, the black kid, right?
Are you talking about Cam?
Cam Mackey?
Yeah, no, Cam Patterson.
Pam Patterson, sorry, not Mackey.
So he got it this year, but this was from like either last year or the year before. They got SNL, and when they got SNL, they told their parents, and the guy's dad goes, dude, that's amazing. Well, maybe now you could get on Kill Tony. And his dad was like, you think Kill Tony is bigger than Saturday Night Live? And his dad's like, oh, I know it's bigger than Saturday because I watch it. I'm your dad. I'm like, I'm in my 50s. I watch Kill Tony. Yeah. I haven't watched SNL in 30 years. It was like, if that is not an indicator of times have changed, man. Yeah.
Which, by the way, like I said, I think it's, I mean, I know there's always the comedy drama rift, but it's like, oh yeah, man, that's just the way, I don't want to say the way things are, but it's like, it's not like it probably used to be when people talk about when it was a very narrow gate. Like there's only so many slots. You hear Rogan talk about all the time. It's like you're fighting people for no reason, but they're all fighting for those slots. And it's like now the gates are blown open and people are seeing you. You, like I said, if you're really great at stand up, then get really good at social media. Yeah. And you'll, and not also people are seeing clips and I'm like, oh, that guy's really funny. That's his set. And then people are like, no, he's actually great.
Oh yeah. You should, there's a guy named Peyton Ruddy that I met in Chicago a couple years ago. And when I was on a show with him, I looked him up and I was like, oh, I don't want to follow that guy. Yeah. That guy's funny. And then I met him and I told him, I'm like, and we did the show. And then afterwards I go, I'm going to be honest. You're the only guy I didn't want to follow. Yeah. Because like he's a destroyer. He's so funny.
See, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many great, but now you're seeing like great comics or super talented people.
Yeah. But then he moved down to Austin and he got a job at the Mothership. He's a door guy there. And while he was there, they let him open for Joe List. And then Joe List saw him and put out like, hey, follow this kid. He is super funny. Now it was like this perfect storm where he was doing social media. It was getting some numbers. It was really funny. He does these videos where he says something like, it's the first day of World War II and you're Hitler and I just gave you a bad haircut. And he's like, and then he just like talks into the camera and he was like, so you like the
oh yeah.
So you like, what about this? What are we going to do with this guy? Is that, and now those videos went from like a couple thousand, now they get millions of likes, millions. So now somebody was like, oh, this kid's got social media down. And then they put him on the road. He is murdering comedy clubs across the country. He's been a headliner for 3 minutes. They're putting him up at the Improv in Hollywood, headlining the Lap. It's like, dude, it takes most people 10 years to get that. Yeah. But he's a guy that did it the right way, the way it should be done. Get stand-up comedy under your belt, get good at it, then get good at social media, use that to drive your stand-up. Don't do it the other way around.
Exactly. No, and I agree with you because because again, at the end of the day, it comes down to for I imagine those comedy clubs, money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like if he's gonna,
they
if
just want to sell
if he's
chicken wings.
Really,
Yeah.
if you're like, it's almost like you'd rather, instead of taking a great comic that doesn't have social media, you have a really good comic, but they're amazing and they're gonna sell.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, of course I'm gonna take the guy that's not less talented, but it's like, all right, man, you're amazing, but if we can't sell tickets,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah,
like this guy will sell tickets and we'll still have a good show.
yeah.
You know, and I think it's great because it democratizes, again, comedy. I'm not in comedy, but it feels like it does that, and I feel the same way when it comes to media and entertainment and podcasting and or being a filmmaker too. Like I'm a cinematographer, so it's like being able to access to things that are like democratizing tools, like I said, cameras, lighting. Like, hey, I'm going to build my following here. Now, your work is going to speak for yourself still, but it does help that your name is now out there, and you kind of have a bit of a social, like, I'm okay at social media, but not really. But it is that thing when I've had people see my work online, and then they work with me, and they're like, oh yeah, like, and then you're getting your jobs based off your skill anyways. I never got a job off social media, but I do have people that I've gotten work with, and then they looked at social media, and then they recommend me to someone else. Like, no, he's talented. Check out his work. You can watch my reel on my Instagram right now.
Yeah.
And so people are like, no, he's really good. Plus, go check out his Instagram.
Yeah.
His reels on there. You'll see some of his, and it's sometimes I've had that, like, yeah, I've seen your like clips on Instagram, like I was like, cinematography wise, and he's like, yeah, it's really good.
Oh, it's awesome.
All right, cool. I don't rely on that, I have like 5,000 followers, whatever, but no, that's wild. It's a cool medium to see, how it's expanded. Like I said, you did radio. I'd say radio's kind of dead, but you expand into podcasts, you expand into whatever, and especially being a comedian. I mean, and you have a whole other career being an actor.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
We haven't even touched on that.
Yeah.
You worked with Lawrence Fishburne, and right?
Yeah, we did that movie together, which I got cut out of.
Yeah,
thank God.
Didn't you get punched by somebody?
Yeah,
too?
Mel Gibson's son busted me up pretty good. The whole inside of my mouth was filled with canker sores.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a nice guy. There's probably a reason why his career hasn't taken off.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy to me. He was difficult to work with for everybody else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then he says that I lifted my head when he was, we had this whole fight scene worked out where he was going to swing and then I would, go down and then I would come up and then he would hit me again. He said, when he swung, I brought my head up too soon. And it was like Thor's goddamn hammer hit me in the face. He's, not that I've like held other men very often. It happens from time to time. But when I grabbed onto that dude's forearm, it was like grabbing a piece of steel. He's just the hardest individual. I mean, he was the ball of muscle. So when he punched me, I was out. And that's the scene that they apparently had used in the first cut of that film, and then they cut it out. It was called Brother's Keeper, and I believe it's sitting at a 1 on Rotten Tomatoes. So thank God I got cut out of that film. Thank God. Yeah. So I got cut out, and I try to
I love it.
act as much as I can, but stand up is sort of taking precedent, and I'm lucky enough to be close to LA, so I'm getting some stuff here and there.
Are you acting in anything, or not
at the moment? I'm just so focused right now, and it's so hard to. But I send in for auditions and stuff all the time. But it's just every time I see something that I want to do, I'm like, okay, well, that's shooting on a weekend when I got 5 sold out shows. Okay, well, shit, man, like that's
how up into the tier is that for you? You know what I mean? Like, is there at one point how well do you want your comedy career to be going and be like, I'll take a weekend off to do, or you know what I'm saying? Like, where does that kind of like, I'm doing really well in comedy. Let's take a weekend or two and do a short film or a film or.
I think I'll treat it like I did radio. Like my goal for me is to become an every single weekend headliner in clubs. That's my goal. And then once we get that, I'll treat it like radio. Okay, now that I got this, what's the next thing? So I think adding too much too early. I don't think I quite have the, I don't have the following yet to be able to go out and do that stuff. But, it's okay to do it every once in a while because, like I'm doing Comics Unleashed on CBS and I had to give up a night of stand-up to be able to go and do that, which is not a huge credit, but it's still a credit. And hey, man, this guy's he was on CBS after Stephen Colbert. Yeah. Fucking A,
That's awesome. So is that like you're doing your stand-up there, or is that like
kind
a host?
Kind of. So it's like a panel. It's like a panel show. But basically the host, Byron Allen, just sets you up. And he's like, what irritates you? And then you basically do 90 seconds of your material, and then they cut it down to 30.
It's awesome too that I like the atmosphere we're in now when you're just like, yeah, it's just a CBS show. I'm gonna go back to the road. Everything's flipped. Like 20 years ago, you'd be like, I'm on CBS. Like I need to get on that Comics Unleashed on CBS. Now it's like, nah, man, I'm gonna be. I mean, I guess I got time for CBS.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Shows what broadcast is like.
It's like whatever, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun because it's on Paramount Plus now. You know, and it'll always be there. You know, so you know, I can just tell my daughter, hey, man, just fire it up anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime my daughter starts giving me shit, I'm just going to go ahead and just send her that CBS Comics Unleashed episode and be like, remember what paid for that trip to Hawaii right there? Remember that? Yeah. This guy right here, this face, that paid for that. That brand new Mazda CX-5, this did that. So don't forget it.
See, that's like, I think when it comes to that, like the next big one would be like getting on with like John Cena or something. Be like John Cena's sidekick in some like Amazon comedy.
Peacemaker?
Oh no, I've heard about it. No, I heard it's great. I've heard it's great. Yeah. I've heard Peacemaker's really good.
The best.
Again, me as a filmmaker, I don't have time to watch anything.
I'm
editing all day long. I got kids. Like, so if I'm seeing something, it better be good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the time to be like, I'm just gonna watch 6 series this week.
I know,
or,
right? Yeah.
And it bums me out a little bit because I know I'm missing really good content.
Yeah.
And I miss the days like when I met you. Dude, film school for 2 years was just me living, like watching films all day long, writing papers about movie, and then making short films. It's the best 2 years. It was awesome. It was like I built a computer, I was watching YouTube how to make stuff. It was like, sky's the limit. It was
Look at us, just a couple of kids from the valley, and now we're big time in it. That's awesome,
dude. And it's fun. It's a blast. And like I said, I think that if you get John Cena, be John Cena's sidekick on an Amazon comedy or something like that. That'd be awesome. Then you could be like, I paid for your college education or whatever. It's just college though, but not a house or anything. I didn't send me over like, but I paid for your college education, whatever that costs. Dude. Yeah, that's sick, bro. All right, so 3 hours.
Is that 3 hours? Get out, dude.
3 hours.
Shit. Shit. I'm supposed to be at the club already. Holy shit.
Dude, really?
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock already?
Yeah.
Yeah, I told those guys I'd be there at 4. Shit.
So sorry.
Don't worry. I'm just there for setup. Because I started doing now because I'm trying to work a little bit smarter and not harder, and I want my product to be better.
Yeah.
So before, I'd be like, all right, what time does the show start? Okay, 7 o'clock? Great. What time are doors? 6:30? Great. I'll be there at 6:20. I'd set everything up, and then I'd feel like I was always rushed and couldn't get shit together. And now I was listening to Ian Edwards on a podcast. He was on the Adam Corolla Show. I was there doing some behind the scene work, and I was listening to him talk about it, and he was like, man, when I used to travel, it used to be, what time's the show? Okay, get there right before doors, get some shit together. He's like, now what we do is we go to the venue at like, if it's a theater, we go to the venue at like noon. Get all our shit set up, get all the merch done. We take our time, we make sure it's right. We get all the cameras dialed in, we get the audio dialed in. Then everybody, we go have lunch. We have a bite to eat. As soon as we're done with the bite to eat, everybody goes back to the hotel. We all take an hour nap. We get up, we shower, we're on our way to the club. Now, everything is set and ready to go. We're not rushed. We feel like it's a better product in the end if we go there early. So I've really started to like do that. I've really started to be like, get to the club early, get your shit set up, make sure it's good to go. Be professional about it, And I think it makes a big difference. I think clubs and theaters see you being proactive about it. I think they want to work with guys like that.
No, I agree with you because I do that for jobs. I'll show up a day early.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, one, I got to make sure the equipment is here.
Sure.
So that it's working. Batteries are charged. Our shot list is good. Check out the location. What's going on? Shot list, And so when we get up the next morning, all the kit, it's already in the car. You show up and you're still, filmmakers. You show up, something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like, make sure you have your ducks in a row when something goes wrong.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to go wrong. Something's going to come out of like left field.
Sweet. Well, all right. I can't wait to see one of these 70 clips you put out.
Dude, I know, right? Where can people find you? Rudy Pavich.
Easy enough. Just rudypavichcomedy.com. I bought adamcorollasopener.com. And I talk about it on stage because that's the only way people can remember my name. So I'm like, just go to adamcorollasopener.com. And I use michaelyosopener.com. Yeah. But rudypavichcomedy.com. And then just, in fact, if you just type in Rudy comedian, I'm like the first thing that pops up.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
I love
it's easy
it, dude.
enough. Yeah.
Dude, thanks for coming on, bro.
Dude, always good to see you,
Love
man.
you, bro.
Always.
I'm so
Thanks,
pumped.
man. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Dude.